we're going live. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Come in. It's your boy, the late Lord Haven, and it's been like 3 weeks since my last live stream, so come on in and enjoy. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that stuff. Get that out of the way. Okay, now we're here in the present. It's a new year. It's not just the new year, it's the 2nd of January. And for those of you who don't know, the 2nd of January is kind of like my second anniversary. It's like my second birthday, in a way. Like the Queen, right? 2 birthdays. So my official anniversary is, I believe, the 25th of September. That's when I started my channel. And then I made like 10 House of the Dragon reviews. I made a kind of a goofy POV, you are Lucerys Velaryon meme. And out of those videos, I got about, September to December, I got about 19 subscribers. So I was on a solid 19 subs. But then, on the 2nd of January, 2023, I posted the very clickbaity, the best episode of House of the Dragon. And that basically launched my YouTube career, right? Before, it was just a few Hot D reviews, whatever. Then I quit my job. Then I started it officially. Plane going overhead, as you always got to interrupt the streams. But yeah, where was I? Yes. 2nd of January, I posted that, and that kickstarted things because a bunch of people watched it, and then I was able to build off of that momentum, and here we are. From 19 subscribers to 23,000 subscribers, 22,000 in a year. That's pretty good. Anyway, that's enough blowing my own trumpet. Let's wait for more people to come in, and then we'll dive into it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into a couple of my videos. So there's the best episode of Hot D, and then I followed that up with the worst episode of Hot D. And it's just sort of, I guess, a review, analysis, video essay full of memes. It's a different style. It's not the kind of thing I do now, but that's just because I don't review things nowadays. But I do want to get back to reviewing. So when House of Dragon Season 2 comes out, I want to do these kind of fun reviews. Maybe for other forms of content like The Witcher and so on. I'll come back to this. But I genuinely don't think I've watched these videos since I released them. So it's been a year. So I can't remember if they're good. I don't know if they're going to be funny. They might be super cringy. This might be really embarrassing for me. But I think it'll be fun to jump in. Before we do begin, I'll ask a couple questions. First off, can you all hear me well? Is the mic okay? Is the audio okay? I've rearranged my study, so the setup's different. So am I good? I'm not too echoey. I need a new mic. I need some new sound dampeners. I need all that stuff. Okay. And also, let me say hello to everyone. Hello Bittersteel. Hello Callum. Hello Loopsy. Hello Batflash. Hello Connor. Hello Fikri. Hello Space Enthusiast. Hello Minnie. Hello Stephen. Hello Boombler. Hello Mink. Hello Claire. Hello Kat. Hello everyone. Sound is good? That's great. Awesome. I think we should begin. Why not? Let's begin. Not load of viewers yet, but to be fair, I have had, like I said, like a 3-week break from live streaming. So I think lots of people have sort of... You got to be consistent with this stuff, right? Okay, so let's begin. I'll make sure the volume's not too bad. The best episode of House of the Dragon, 1 year ago.
The Dragon. House of the Dragon.
I mean, just straight off the bat, I'm not going to pause this every second, I trust, but that was me using... So currently I'm using my Snowball mic, right? So when I did this video in particular, I didn't just use my Snowball mic, I used Voice Meter. So that's why it sounds kind of bassier and louder. And I brought that back, and then I switched it up, but I brought Voice Meter back for my Umber video and my Hot D Season 2 teaser video. So I'm not sure what kind of audio people prefer. Every time I ask, people just say, I can't tell the difference or I don't care, so it's probably not a big deal, but there we go.
It's pretty okay, I guess. Nothing special.
A bad joke, Your Grace.
Look, another thing I'll mention is that the clips I use of like House of Dragon, Game of Thrones, and so on, they're not like from a streaming thing or from DVDs or anything. They're just taken from clips on YouTube because I didn't know how to access it, so I was like, There we go.
Oh wait, no, it was only the best show of the entire year. Bravo, HBO.
Best show of the entire year. That's a bold statement from someone who didn't watch every show that year. Like, best show of the year? What did I even watch last year? Although last year was like a bad year for TV, wasn't it? It was like a bunch of rubbish Disney Plus stuff. Succession season 4, that was great. Hot D, Andor. Those are the trinity, I think, when it comes to TV last year that I can think of.
We were all let down by the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. It was underwhelming.
I'm pretty sure I got a comment that was like, we weren't all let down, actually. I liked it. And it's like, yeah, this was me experimenting. This is the first video when I properly went, okay, let's have a catchy title. Let's have a thumbnail that stands out, hence the thumbnail being like Viserys, young and old. And it's interesting, the content that gets the most views on YouTube is stuff that's asserting an opinion, basically. It's basically asserting your opinion as fact, and people are always intrigued by that. So if you're like, kind of, I guess, in my opinion, people aren't as interested as just asserting an opinion. Like, I got so much engagement on this video. I don't get as much engagement on my other videos because that's lore. So people just jump into the lore and they talk about it, but this is properly like people agreeing, people disagreeing, all kind of stuff.
Bizarrely paced and downright awkward at times. But it's been talked about to death, and I know the YouTube algorithm rewards that juicy rage bait, but let's be positive today.
Wait, we gotta see this.
YouTube algorithm rewards that juicy rage bait, but let's...
Top 10 worst Season 8 moments. Season 8 was garbage. Kinvara scene 1080p. I don't even remember doing this. Why Season 8 failed. Shout out to Kinvara though.
Let's be positive today. I want to talk about my favourite episode of Hot D, although that's not an easy task. Episode 1 needed to introduce multiple new characters, plot threads and themes to an audience who are mostly watching with their arms crossed in caution. And
so I will say, almost everyone I've spoken to had the same attitude to House of the Dragon. Or the same couple of attitudes. It was either, yeah, I guess I'll check it out, sure, I hope it's good, probably won't be. Or like, I don't want to watch it. I want it to fail, because screw HBO. And I'd be like, yeah, well, different people are writing it, and I don't care. They're different, directors, and I don't care. Different production team, I guess there are holdovers in terms of visual effects and set design and costuming and props, I guess, but there's a really a new team, and people would be like, no, I want it to fail, I want to teach HBO a lesson for ruining Game of Thrones. I'd be like, it's not even the same HBO, they get brought out by Discovery, it's like a new CEO, a new board, it's not the same people behind Game of Thrones, and they're like, I don't care, I want it to fail anyway, or I don't want to watch it. And I was, again, I don't want to be a hipster, but I did go into it being like, I think this is going to be better than people think. Now, it's better than I thought it would be, but I still was like, no, I trust the cast, I like Matt Smith, right? Ryan Condal, I was interested in what he had to say in interviews, I trusted him somewhat. And yeah, they didn't need to fully earn our trust, but I was like, I think this is going to be okay. I think this is actually going to be a good show. And I couldn't understand why everyone was so overwhelmingly negative. So I did feel kind of smug being like, yeah, that's right. The show's good. I knew it would be. Although if it had failed, then that would have been, I don't know. If Hot D Season 1 had flopped, would that be the end of the Westeros cinematic universe? I don't know. Oh, we have a super chat, my bad. Super chat from the great and powerful Lala Loopsy, who says, but my great theory is that Rhaegar is the statue of Baelor. He went into Lyanna as he died with his last word. She said Ned before dying. Then Ned yelled Baelor before dying. Rhaegar is Baelor. How do I kick people from the chat? Hold on, how do I do that? Okay, no. Let's break this down. So when Rhaegar died on the Trident, he was like, Lyanna, and then he walked into Lyanna, and Lyanna whispered, Ned, and then walked into Ned, and Lyanna was just Ned for those 15 years. Lyanna in her brother's body banging cat. Okay then, and then Ned yelled Baelor, Baelor, before he was taken up to be executed. Although he did say more. His last word wasn't Baelor, but he did shout Baelor. So maybe Rhaegar's spirit, soul, consciousness is now in that big statue of Baelor. Yeah. Or, the alternative theory, Loopsy, is that you're insane. That might be the other one. It could be that. Oh yeah, and if anyone else, if you want to send in super chats, asking questions, promoting weird theories, getting me to say dumb stuff, go ahead. All it does is support the channel, because this is my job. So I appreciate it a lot. And if you can't, that's fine. You don't have to. But what you can do to help out is like the video, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Okay, let's continue.
And it brought Westeros and the fandom roaring back to life. Episode 3 had a fun, if slightly nonsensical battle scene, with blood and fire and Daemon Targaryen stealing the show without uttering a single word. Meanwhile, episode 4 was drenched in atmosphere and...
Why do I sound younger in this? Like, it's 1 year. I sound really... Is that just me? I sound 5 years younger.
Intrigue, managing to portray spicy scenes that felt seedy, disturbing, titillating, in very stark contrast to Game of Thrones' empty, almost goofy lewd scenes.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, it's cool seeing, looking back at my old thoughts of this. Like, Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones was never like a sexy show. Even people would always say it was like, oh, it's full of HBO boobs and so on. But it was either really goofy and childish in the way it portrayed like nudity and sex scenes, or it was just like I said, like sterile, just sort of weirdly like fake and clinical. And just the episode 4, directed by Claire Kilner of House of the Dragon season 1, that's how you film sex scenes. Whether it's the Daemon Rhaenyra one, the Alicent Viserys one, the Rhaenyra Kristen one, all three are trying to convey different things. They're all really well acted, really well shot, well directed. And in contrast, the Daemon Rhaenyra scene in episode 7, right, Driftmark, directed by Miguel Sapochnik, that's more similar to old Game of Thrones sex scenes. It's that one I found a lot more awkward and sterile and like lacking chemistry. Miguel can do lots of stuff, but it seems like he can't quite direct like sex scenes.
Too old.
Episode 7 gave us...
Yeah, there could be some banger memes in this. I don't even remember making... this took me a month to make, this video, because I was just constantly... I just couldn't focus, and, I didn't have a job, and, And then when this blew up, I was like, oh shit, and so I made the next video in like a week. Thank you for the super chat from Coleshot. The endless torture you receive from us is the reason you sound old. It might be that. It might be all the cries, all the disparaging cries of Late Lord Haven. It's aged me. I've got grey in my hair. I've got crow's feet under my eyes. I'm going crazy.
Banger after banger, from Vhagar's flight to the children's fight, leaving Aemond with half his sight and Rhaenyra to face Alicent's spite. Okay, I'll stop now, I promise. For me,
that was a for those of you who watched Glidus and his piss takes and bliss takes, I forgot what it was. I can't remember if it was one video of his or multiple, but he had this shtick where he would like kind of recount the previous episode in that fun rhyming format, and that's an homage to Glidus there, or a rip-off depending on who you want to ask.
Me, my favourite episode of The Dragon Show was the one without the dragons. So let's dive into episode 8, The Lord of the Tides.
Oh, there he is. There's the old Haven. I miss the old Haven. Oh, look at those terrifying tiny eyes. Oh, that's uncomfortable. I like the shirt though. He's got the shirt. No trousers. His whole body's a shirt. Okay. Yeah, no outline on the text. The purple. Purple used to be... Whoops. Purple used to be my theme, by the way. That was the background of my profile picture, of my banner, of my thumbnails. Excuse me, sorry. It's all purple. Fantasy Haven was going to be purple, and then I kind of went, okay, I moved to a more gold, I think.
I will not see it ended on the account of this.
So this episode takes place after a 6-year time skip. A certain snake has fallen ill, the illness in question being a sliced neck. God, this guy's tough. A lifetime by the sea has made Vaemond Velaryon extra salty, and he wants to be named heir to Driftmark.
You can hear some wet mouth sounds. I think that's, yeah. Maybe that's one of the reasons I changed the audio setup, but you can hear lots of like between sentences, which I hate. I hate. The worst thing is listening back to audio and hearing like wet mouth sounds in between each sentence. It's like, oh, it's so annoying to edit out.
Not without good reason, let's be honest.
They're white. They got brown hair. Very obvious.
Ray and the squad pull up to King's Landing only to find the court has been taken over by Ali C and the Green Gang. This is a Faith of the Seven server. Please do not post curse words or loot content involving dragons. The Greens want an ally in Vaemond Velaryon, so they perform this rigged petition, but Vizzy skips his meds and ruins their plan. He calls a reconciliatory feast, which starts out fine.
What are the... Yeah. So these are the chapters. We're on summary right now.
It soon becomes your average Thanksgiving dinner. I think? Is that what it's like? I don't know, I'm British. On his deathbed, Viserys contracts the fatal miscommunication trope and dies shortly thereafter, not before accidentally convincing Alicent that he wants Aegon to be king.
This is weird to watch. I feel like my content's so much professional now. This is very it's not cringy to watch. It's just a little bit like, yeah, the audio's not great, the editing isn't great. It's all a bit, I don't know. But it's always fun to go back to these old things.
The most impressive part of this show is its ability to take vague historical notes from Fire and Blood and extract entire episodes out of them, filled with rich dialogue and creative story beats. This episode takes 3 events from the book: the Driftmark succession dispute of 126, Viserys' feast of 127, and the death of Viserys in 129, merging them into the span of a single day. In Fire and Blood...
So, here we see some... Oh, whoopsie. I need to stop destroying my desk. Here we see some early Haven animation.
Blood. So Vaemond is called
Look at this. Look, they're not even... They're just like... moving in like that. There's no... Yeah, there's no movement to their body, there's no bouncing, it's just like sliding in. This was before I added skin tones, there's the tiny eyes. I don't know what's happening here. The shading's just gone right over that black outline, same there. Oh, that's cute.
His eldest nephew. When Corlys falls ill, not due to her...
Am I doing that whole early YouTuber vocal fry thing? Where you go back to YouTubers, you look at their earlier videos and it's very vocal fry-y, where they're like, yeah, his eldest nephew, because they're trying to sound cool. I didn't deliberately do that, but I do sound a bit vocal fry-y here.
Battle wound, but a simple fever. Vaemond openly proclaims that he should be the heir. Rhaenyra hears of this and dispatches David.
Why do I keep smacking my mic? I'm gonna move my mic back so I'm not killing your ears. Oh, look at this Daemon art. Oh my, that's terrible. The tiny. Look at the dragon on his chest. What is that? Come on. I wasn't even trying. My goodness. Awooga. Alright. Also, why is Rhaenyra like blonde? Why is it just full on blonde? He's got like blood raven hair and she's just got like blonde hair.
Hunt him down, take his head, and feed his carcass to her dragon, Syrax. Westeros is a world with consequences, and thus some of the Velaryons aren't happy with this brutal execution. Namely, Vaemond's wife, and his 2 sons, Daeron and Damien, as well as his 5 cousins, consisting of Sir Malentine and Sir Rogar, which are surprisingly awesome names for such minor side...
Oh, look at that, look at the little white bits here. Ooh, unprofessional, unbelievable. Sir Rogar is a great name.
Characters. They all sail to King's Landing for an
audience. Yeah, my Rhaenyra is more canon than the show, but Rhaenyra. I've got thick Rhaenyra.
Audience with Viserys.
Oh, look at this old art. Look at old Otto. Look at old Viserys. But yeah, this is the first video where I merged like book content in the form of animation with show content. And that I want to bring that back, not just for future reviews, like, House of Dragon Season 2 and other fantasy shows, but also for an upcoming series I have planned, Book versus Show, where I'm going to look at basically breaking down what is the difference between Fire and Blood and House of the Dragon. But instead of just talking about it, it's going to be, I will animate the book scenes and say, but in the show it's different, and I'll cut to the show scenes. So I feel like that could be fun to do in time for Season 2, and then I'll do it for Season 2 as well, because it's fun to see all those little differences,
But the five cousins make the mistake of openly questioning the legitimacy of Rhaenyra's sons, and the king has their tongues cut out.
A little bit of camera shake effect. Speaking of, I'll let this sentence finish.
They are soon branded with the epithet, the Silent Five.
So yeah, the Silent Five aren't in the show, obviously, but like they kind of merged Vaemond with Book Vaemond and also the Silent Five. They kind of merged them all together. But there were some leaks saying that there's going to be a character called Marston Waters. Obviously a bastard due to his last name, who's going to be in King's Landing. He's going to be on Team Green, and the actor's a black person, and so I don't know. I mean, maybe he's a Valyrian bastard, right? Waters, dark skin, could be a Valyrian bastard, which means he might be an amalgamation of the Silent Five, right? The Silent Five who went on to be on Team Green because they were like, we want Driftmark for ourselves. So that could be Marston Waters' role. If that leak is true, it might not be true, but...
Hot D mashes all of this together to create a satisfying, streamlined plot. Vaemond has become Corlys' younger brother instead of nephew, in order to simplify his claim to Driftmark for casual audiences. He acts as an
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
amalgamation of all 9 bitter Valyrians.
Let me know in the comments. Is anyone here actually watching this video for the first time through this live stream? It'd be quite fun if someone is.
Like Book Vaemond, he proclaims himself to be the rightful heir to Driftmark and is killed by Daemon. Like the Book Valyrians, he sails to King's Landing to petition the crown. And like the Silent Five, he openly insults Rhaenyra and is punished for it.
And she is...
I like that they kept Viserys'
God damn it.
fury and willingness to de-tongue anyone who insults his precious daughter, as well as Daemon's execution. I wasn't expecting him to slice halfway through the head. It made the kill feel quick, messy, and impulsive. While I appreciate that book fans wanted to see his body fed to Syrax, personally I think that would have been a bit too overkill. The writers probably removed Rhaenyra's part in the murder for the same reason they have her spare Laenor in episode 7, the previous episode. Her character has not yet reached that dark point. The ruthlessness can come later. While I love all of these changes, I'm curious as to the future of House Velaryon in the show. Without spoiling anything, the Silent Five make a return in the book, so I wonder if they've been cut completely or if they will be introduced next season, perhaps as Vaemon's sons and presumably with their tongues intact.
Oh, I didn't mean to... YouTube's got that thing where if you press on the side it like temporarily speeds up. Yeah, well I predicted it back here. I said maybe they'll introduce like a son to represent the Silent Five, as maybe they are with Marston Waters. I don't know.
We'll have your tongue for that.
Viserys calls a feast in 127 to celebrate his returning health after a nasty fever, which was actually brought on by slicing his hand on the Iron Throne right after ordering the 5 Valyrians to lose their tongues, similar to how Hot D Viserys cuts his finger after banishing Daemon. He demands that Rhaenyra and Alicent both attend with all their children. Rhaenyra wears green and Alicent wears black in a show of apparent amity, while their children break bread together. Daemon even toasts Otto Hightower, if you can believe that. Yet, when the king...
Yeah, I would say that... Oh, I keep hitting this mic, I'm so sorry. One thing I do find quite... I think I do go on to mention this maybe, but one thing I do find quite disappointing is they're called the Blacks and the Greens, but that's never really represented beyond... Well, actually, Rhaenyra's faction is never actually referred to as the Blacks in Season 1, and Alicent's faction are the Greens, but it's only really because she wears a green dress. Since episode 5 onwards, she wears a green dress, but you don't really see the factions owning those colours, right? The whole, like, at special events, they will wear the colours of the court faction they're a part of. So Rhaenyra's followers will wear black, Alicent, Aegon's supporters will wear green, but you don't see that at court. As usual, even though the costumes are really awesome this season, it still suffers from that kind of, you know, nobility all wearing, like, dark grey and black and beige, and it's like... I don't know, it would have been cool if we just had a shot of like the throne room and you had half of them were wearing black, the other half are wearing green and they're mingling. I don't know.
Leaves, so too do the pretenses. Aemond One-Eye gives a speech calling his nephews strong boys, while Aegon and Jacaerys almost break into a fight after the latter asks Helena for a dance. The following morning, Rhaenyra and her family immediately leave for Dragonstone. This is one of my favourite moments from Fire and Blood and I couldn't wait to see it adapted. Little did I know it would be better than anything I could imagine. The tense facade presented in the book is so much more complex and nuanced in the show. Viserys' emotional speech to his family, begging for their reconciliation, does not fall on deaf ears.
I need to make sure I'm not just like watching this, like silently watching it. But I want to go back to. So I was checking out. I only have one monitor, so I was checking something on a different tab. Look at this little. We got Rhaenyra, we got Alicent, we got Vizzy, we got Otto, we got Daemon.
Daemon even toasts Otto Hightower, if you can believe that. Yet when the king leaves,
And then
so too do the with all their children.
Let me go back. Yeah, then we got Aegon, Aemond, Jace, Luke, and Joffrey. They have all. I think they've all been revamped at this point. I'm not sure if Aegon has, but I think all the other characters I've used again in later videos, and I've revamped the art style.
Into a fight after that. This is one of my favourite moments from Fire and Blood, and I couldn't wait to see it adapted. Little did I know it would be better than anything I could imagine. The tense facade presented in the book is so much more complex and nuanced in the show. Viserys' emotional speech to his family, begging for their reconciliation, does not fall on deaf ears. Rhaenyra and Alicent's kind words feel legitimate, and their final scene together is tender and tragic in retrospect. Book Alicent is 10 years older than Rhaenyra and fulfills the cold, bitchy stepmother trope. In Hot D, they're legitimate childhood friends, and this dynamic makes their relationship far more intimate, their brief reconciliation far more believable, and their future decisions far more tragic.
Yeah, I've gone into this quite a few times, so I don't have much to expand upon. But yeah, I do think I prefer their relationship in the show. Honestly, it's so well done as a change, and it's a ballsy change, because if it had been handled badly, people would have complained, right? Like, why did you change it? But I keep forgetting it's not canon to the books. I keep forgetting that Rhaenyra and Alicent aren't childhood friends. Like, I'm always like, oh wait, yeah, no, that's different in the book. She's like 10 years older, and she's the stepmother.
Rhaenyra and Alicent make up, and while we don't see Daemon's friendly speech towards Otto, which would have been hilarious, let's be honest, the adults are all acting with respect and seem to be genuinely enjoying themselves. Instead of trying...
Yeah, Batflash in the chat mentioned, it's weird, the final episode is called The Black Queen, Rhaenyra's faction is never named. Yeah. Side note, is Rhaenyra just using the unaltered Targaryen heraldry in the show? That's interesting, because in the teaser for Hot D Season 2, we see Aegon's sigil, and what they've done is they've taken, instead of the gold dragon on black, it's a gold dragon on dark green to feed into that whole Team Green Hightower thing, which is a change I really like. But Rhaenyra's sigil does just look like the Targaryen banner, which I think is a mistake, because it's basically just saying, it's sort of implying that like she is the legitimate Targaryen successor, because she's literally continuing the coat of arms. They both rally behind the same red dragon on black sigil. Like, they are both Targaryens. It's just for the war you can't have a red dragon facing a red dragon, because obviously that's not how it works. So they both, their sides wave the banner of their personal coat of arms. So it looks like Rhaenyra doesn't have a personal coat of arms in the show. Her one in the book, I knew they would never adapt. The quartered one where it's Targaryen, Arryn, Velaryon, because that's way too messy. And not very marketable, so I knew they would never do that. But I'm disappointed they didn't do something else. I know, I'll tell you what could work. A silver dragon on black. The silver of the Velaryon seahorse to represent her link to House Velaryon, and then dragon on black, Targaryen. Silver dragon on black versus a gold dragon on green. That could have worked, right? I don't know.
Trying to start a fight with Jace after he innocently asks Helena for a dance.
We've done this, haven't we?
From the page does not rise from nowhere. Aegon spends the night mocking and provoking his nephew.
I forgot where I got up to. Did I skip ahead for no reason?
Enjoying themselves. Instead of trying to start a fight with Jace after he innocently asks Helena for a dance, Hot D Aegon spends the night mocking and provoking his nephew, who strikes back by whisking Helena away, using her to get at him. Aemon's speech, which is ripped straight from the page, does not rise from nowhere, but is provoked by Lucerys' immature giggling over a roast pig, reminding Aemond of his bullied youth, which is also made up in the show. This generational trauma comes to a head after Aemon's speech in a short, impulsive burst of intrafamilial violence. By not having the entire event be a complete and total facade, it highlights the tragedy of the younger generation, raised on the fear-mongering and grudges of their parents and grandparents.
Bars, if I do say so myself. Bars.
If there's one change I dislike, it has to be the dragon. Now, don't get me wrong.
Oh, okay, so what I literally just talked about, the faction colours, I address it in this video. I thought I did.
They are beautiful, especially Rhaenyra's, but I would have loved to see them wearing each other's colours like in the book. I suppose this feeds into an overarching issue
Oh yes. No, I didn't bring that up, did I? No, I brought up the idea that green and black isn't really worn in the show in terms of the factions and the nobles at court. But I forgot, yeah, this particular feast, Viserys insists that, you know, as a show of unity and friendliness and so on, or familial love, that all the Aegon Hightower faction all wear black, and then the Rhaenyra faction all wear green. But I'm glad they didn't do it in the show, because they didn't set it up enough, so it would have just been random. But that would have been a cool moment. It would have been cool. Like, imagine Daemon wearing like a green outfit and just looking pissed off.
I have with the show as a whole, the lack of actual green in this black versus green rivalry. Rhaenyra's faction is never actually called the Blacks in this entire show, and the Hightowers are called the Greens, but only Alicent really actually wears green.
Okay, let's have a look at this. I think this frame got criticised in the comments a bit, I seem to remember. So I think it's one of those... Game of Thrones had a similar problem where the costumes did have some colour to them, but the saturation then destroyed that colour. Like, Davos Seaworth has a green outfit in like the later few seasons of Game of Thrones, and you wouldn't know, because the saturation makes it look black the entire time. So, like, I think Aegon is actually wearing dark green, but because of he's in the shadows and the saturation's on, the colour grading. That it looks black. Aemond is wearing black. Helena's got that kind of greeny yellow vibe. Alicent's wearing green. Otto does have green, but... And someone in the comment called Morgan is saying that they've worked in costuming for stage and they've done lots of historical work, and there's they're not happy with the grimdark trend. They say inaccurate and dull. Yeah. I mean, people complain about it enough. I hope Hot D can change that trope in the sense of George and Ryan Condal keep pushing for more colourful outfits, and House of the Dragon was an improvement from Game of Thrones in the costuming department, at least in terms of the colours. Like, there were actual house colours and kind of bright colours, and people displaying their heraldry on their outfit and their armour and so on. And there's a new costume designer for Season 2, and the Season 2 costumes in the trailers look awesome. So I am hoping for... I'm hoping to see some more colour, and hopefully that could affect TV and movies in general. That's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, that needs to change. The whole brown, beige, grey medieval outfits to make everything seem dark and brooding and shit. It's just rubbish, because it's like, humans love colour. Therefore, they loved wearing colour in the past, right? Like, have some fun with it. Like, there's a quite a few years back, there was that Three Musketeers movie with Orlando Bloom and who else was in it? Christoph Waltz was Cardinal Richelieu and so on. Bad film, looked goofy, but I distinctly remember all the costumes just being insanely bright, like people wearing like bright yellow and bright blue and purple, and just being like, oh wow, a historical thing where there's colour. It just looked cool. Anyway, that's enough.
Even in court, everyone is just wearing generic TV Westeros dark colours. Look, I'm not saying everyone needs to be wearing their faction colour at all time, because that would be silly, but surely the petition would have been the perfect moment to use this, at least. I guess
that would have been quite cool. At the petition scene, you could have like a bunch of nobles, literally, go blunt with it, right? You don't necessarily have to be nuanced here. All the nobles wearing green on Alicent's side of the room, on the left-hand side of the court, right-hand side of the court where Rhaenyra is, coming in and facing the Iron Throne, right-hand side, you have black. Green and black, show the divide, have some cool wide shots.
That's a nitpick, and again, it's more of an issue I have with the season at large than this specific episode. The final moment...
I'm surprised I didn't do another window shutdown noise. It looks like I did a different meme this time.
I have with the season at large.
Show fans enjoying the episode.
Large than this specific.
Book fans watching the wrong white people wearing black.
Episode. The final moment taken from Fire and Blood is the death of Viserys himself. By this point, the king is red-faced and fat, suffering chest pains and shortness of breath. One night he regales his grandchildren Jaehaerys, Jaehaera and Maelor with a tale about King Jaehaerys I riding beyond the wall on his dragon Vermithor, fighting an army of wildlings and giants. He goes to bed, falls asleep.
Ooh, that's a rough background, isn't it? Oh, look at all the... Because I'm a tad lazy, I do sometimes reuse some of the old backgrounds, but like these are old backgrounds, you know. So I'll throw this one and I'll be like, oh, this is just not up to par. I specifically remember listening to a George R. R. Martin interview while colouring in this background, I think. Yeah, some podcast. I don't know.
Sleep and never wakes up again. Viserys' death is very different in the show. For one, there are no storytime scenes from Grandpa Viz. Obviously, they're not super important, but I would have liked to see them, you know, just for the warm fuzzies.
But yes, I guess it's all about
just for the warm fuzz.
It's all about the pacing of the show. You've got 10 episodes. They wanted more. They didn't get more. There's no time to do everything you want to do, but I would have loved to have seen just more family scenes. Rhaenyra interacting with her siblings. Aegon and Helena interacting with their children. Okay, maybe not Aegon interacting with his kids, but you know what I mean. Viserys interacting with his grandkids more, you know? Oh, I don't know.
Viserys' illness is far more grotesque and tragic in Hot D, which makes
If you hear a clicking noise, it's because I'm fiddling with a ruler. I'm going to put it on the floor now so I don't fidget with it anymore.
This episode in particular very heart-wrenching to watch. When he muttered his final words...
Okay, sorry I keep pausing. Callum in the chat said, that background looked like one of those Tudor manors. That's because it's a tracing of a Tudor manor, because it's an old background from before Fantasy Haven when I was working on a channel called History Haven. It never launched, so no point searching it up. I never launched it. I never posted anything. But of the 3 videos I was going to launch the channel with, one of them was going to be about, who was the first who was the first Queen of England? And I was going to go through the different, could you argue that the first Queen was the wife of, William the Conqueror? Could you argue the first Queen means Mary the First, or does it mean Jane Grey, or perhaps Empress Matilda, or even going before the Normans to the Anglo-Saxons, and so on and so forth. The wife of Alfred the Great, that kind of thing. And so there was a Tudor section with Mary Tudor, and so that was the background for that. And I sometimes reuse some of those backgrounds, but I, change them around a bit. But yes, the History Haven videos were going to be, who was the first king of England? Again, it was going to be Anglo-Saxons, Normans, seeing which one you could argue is technically the first queen. And then the third one was going to be the Viking kings of England. So that period where we were conquered by King Canute and his 2 sons and so on. Some of my patrons want me to release those History Haven videos on Patreon. I might do, honestly. That could be fun. But I might also, maybe this is the year of History Haven. Maybe I should bring it back. I say bring it back, I never launched it, but maybe I should actually set it up. History Haven. Do some historical videos. I've got enough on my plate. Anyway, let's continue.
No more, my love. It hit me hard. Reading about Viserys' death in the books, in contrast, was just meh. His death, in fact, his whole reign, is basically just a setup for something far more interesting in Fire and Blood. But the biggest change, without question, is the somewhat controversial miscommunication moment. We're all used to the miscommunication.
Oh, I distinctly remember this bit. Wait, hold on.
Communication trope in fiction. It's a trope I absolutely despise.
Yeah, I think there's a bit after I say, it's a trope I absolutely despise, and then I have another sentence, but I think the audio got messed up and I couldn't be bothered to re-record it, so I just immediately slam cut to the 2 pillars.
One, the characters being utter idiots that cannot communicate like normal people, and 2, the writers being too creatively bankrupt to progress the plot in a more natural or meaningful way. However...
Okay, so another thing I realised is that when I was about to say he, it's me. When I say this,
in a more natural...
I'm looking to the side because the text is meant to pop up here. It's meant to be the 2 pillars, right? So it's 1... And then, what I say pops up. Clearly something went wrong, so it's just me, staring into nothingness.
Or meaningful way. However, Viserys is addled on milk of the poppy, and despite Alicent's best attempts to induce lucidity in him, he's rambling like a crazy old man. He thinks Ali is Rey, just like he thought Rey was Ali earlier on in the episode, and he brings up the pig that was promised prophecy about the Pink Dread, who will one day unite Westeros. Wait, no, that's wrong. The prince that was promised, that's it. Shout out to Season 7. Alicent misunderstands his ramblings as a declaration that her son Aegon should be the heir, because of course she doesn't know about Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy, just like 80% of the casual audience. Again, shout out to Season 7.
The prince who is promised will bring the dawn.
So in terms of why the miscommunication happens, well...
I do miss these kind of videos where you can just throw in fun memes now and then. I'll make more in the future. I will. I'll do reviews, I'll do stuff.
It makes sense and it's also...
Okay, I might put this on double speed because when I don't have anything interesting to say, it's just the video, so... It's a good video, but you know. Nope.
Set up well, but is it a lazy way to advance the...
Oh, that's a bit too fast. Let's go 1.75.
Plot. On the one hand, it doesn't actually exist to advance the plot. In the next episode, the Green Coup happens irrespective of Alicent's involvement, meaning that this scene exists to serve her character specifically, by giving her a more sympathetic reason to turn against Rhaenyra. However, by emphasising this misunderstanding as seemingly the main reason she supports the coup, I don't know, it does take away some of the conniving villainous aspects of her character that we see in Fire and Blood. Why can't she support Aegon for the throne because she wants the power, she wants the realm to be stable, she's scared for her family? It's okay to have some female villains, you know. Overall, I don't mind this.
Yeah, I've talked about this to death in other things about Alicent just sort of, you know, just lacking that. And people don't like that phrase. In my worst episode of Hot Deed, they don't like the phrase of Alicent not having agency, right? But like, I do think it was a mistake to have her be so uninvolved in the coup. If they're portraying it as like long term, they want her to be more politically savvy, more ruthless, more Machiavellian over time, like as the Civil War goes on, blah blah blah. Fine, but if they don't do that, then it was a mistake because it's just like oh no, the coup is going down. I had nothing to do with it. It's like, well, that's not interesting. Come on, where are the female villains in this show? You know, we had some great ones in Game of Thrones. And then you have some weird behind the scene comments where people are like, oh, I don't know, where some people are saying kind of silly stuff about, you know, oh, the women are forced to do all these things by the male characters and they're all idiots and psychopaths, and if they were out of the way then things would be okay and the women could rule. And it's like, that's very silly, and it's a complete misunderstanding of the books, although the people saying that presumably haven't read the books. But it's like, yeah, I did want to see more from Alicent. I like the sympathetic angle, but this doesn't. This is I do in retrospect, I'm quite lenient on the miscommunication trope in this video. I think I have changed my mind over time. I do think I was coping a bit. I think it was very silly. I think it was kind of dumb. I think she should have just been like, look, I'm going to do this because I think it's for the best and I've planned it and let's go ahead, but I'm not happy, but we got to do it. And she can still have friction with Otto, but her just fully being like, huh? Because it makes the whole... And again, I do talk about this, and I don't want to repeat myself too much. I talked about this before. But it really does... When Otto leaves King's Landing in episode 5, he's like, you have to take control, it's up to you, you know. Cleave to Rhaenyra or pray for her mercy, right? Something like that. It's like, you don't want to do those things. You want to stand up against her and so on. And then she comes out in a green dress and she's defiant. She's like, I'm taking matters into my own hands. Our friendship is over. And then in 10 years, it's like, I have no supporters apart from Larys. It's like, what have you been doing in 10 years? You don't have a faction? What do you mean? And then Driftmark, she does the whole dagger thing with Rhaenyra, and then everyone's like, oh, Otto is like, you know, I've never seen that side of you. Finally, you've come out of your shell. You're willing to fight for what's right. Yeah, let's begin. And it's like, yes, let's go. And then it's a 6-year time skip, and she doesn't know about the coup. So it's like, why do we have all these moments of, oh, hold on, she's about to cook. She's about to Olivia cook. Hold up, she's cooking. She's gonna be a schemer now. She's gonna take control. She's finally had her moment. This is when Alicent finally becomes Heisenberg. And then, like, there's a time skip and she comes back and she's, like, hasn't really advanced politically. And it's like, oh, it just feels very wasted. And I'm kind of confused what the intention was behind it beyond just it makes her sympathetic. Because it's like, I don't know. But like I said, I hope that the reason they went down that route is so that over season 2 and 3 and, you know, the rest of the show, that she can continue to become more politically savvy and to become more involved and become more scheming and ruthless. And so it's a proper arc, right? Because the characters in the Dance of the Dragons, right, in the book, historically, they don't really have arcs. And so they have had to shift some things around in Hot D. So, for example, Aemond, I'm fine with him, with the whole Lucerys thing being accidental, because I want him to go on an arc of becoming a monster. I don't want him to start off as a monster, because what's the point? But Alicent, I don't know, we'll have to see.
This moment, but I have two genuine criticisms. One, why is the Prince Aegon prophecy never brought up during or after this scene? Not the Aegon the Conqueror prophecy.
But I'll see what people have to say about that in the chat, because obviously that's a divisive issue. Some people really like the change to Alicent, some people really hate it, some people are in the middle like me. So Kat says, I prefer it actually showing her struggling with her morals and her upbringing and what her father basically forced in her. Yeah, I'm okay with her struggling with it. I just think, not even knowing about the coup. I feel like if she was aware of the coup at least, and then maybe changes her mind and is like, this is too far, and then maybe Beesbury's death forces her hand. But her just not knowing and not being involved, it's like, oh, that's just not as interesting as if she had been a part of the scheming. Anyway. Yeah, and then Callum says, the women, in quotation marks, the women are being forced to go along with all the plans going on around them. End quotation marks. Callum says, okay, they're not just literal puppets, right? Yeah. It's. I think a lot of it is based off of this false conception that, it's viewing history through the lens of female oppression and nothing else. And looking back to medieval times and being like, women were oppressed because medieval times were sexist, and that's it. And a lot of our false interpretations of especially the medieval period are are taken from the Victorian times. It's the Victorians misunderstanding the medieval times, or in some instances, projecting Victorian values onto medieval times. And obviously, Victorians were extremely sexist and patriarchal and prudish and restrictive, right? I mean, I will never forgive the Victorians for scrubbing paint off of medieval armour. God damn it. Anyway, and so, yeah, in the past, the women in nobility, they did have some measure of power. They could become a lady in their own right, capable of passing laws and signing documents and so on. If their husband or their brother or their son or whatever had died or had gone elsewhere. Even pre-Norman Britain, Anglo-Saxons, the ladies had a lot more power, especially queens. Queens could preside over courts and so on. And that's not even mentioning the common folk, the peasants, that you did have female blacksmiths and female bakers and, women doing these jobs nowadays we don't consider them as doing, because our perception, again, influenced by those Victorian values and propagated by media, and then pulp historical fiction, pulp fantasy stuff and so on, is that women sat around knitting while men beat them and then ruled. And it's like, okay, men and women, they ruled in different ways, right? They suffered in different ways, so, men on the battlefield, women in the bedchamber, obviously different kinds of suffering. And death, and they ruled in different ways. So men had a lot more harder power, women had a lot more soft power. But I think it's a very nuanced topic, and Hot D, and I think Game of Thrones, as unnuanced as that show could be, managed to handle those kind of things quite well for the most part. Whereas House of the Dragon, it feels like some of the creators involved, based on behind the scenes stuff, seem to have a misunderstanding of the source material, and they do seem to treat it as this weird kind of, this world of Westeros is this world where a bunch of evil men are in power and the women can't do anything. And it's like, well, no, that's not what happens in the books, right? There are lots of women who do manage to rise up, and they rule in different ways. And, Alicent is an example of, in the book, of a intelligent, manipulative schemer, and we don't quite get enough of that in the show. And I would have liked more politically active Alicent and so on. But to summarise, for those who didn't quite follow what I was saying, I'm sexist and I hate women. Let's continue the episode.
The Prince Aegon prophecy. You know, the dream Viserys had of a son on the Iron Throne with the crown of Aegon the Conqueror on his head. The prophecy he tells Alicent in episode 3. Wouldn't it have been more believable if he thought he was rambling about his prophecy to have a son on the throne? You know, Aegon, the dream, Prince who was promised. You can see why she would make that mistake. You could argue that it doesn't matter that Alicent is...
Oh, that's a good point. I'm pausing my own video to say that my own point was good. I'm aware how this looks. But I didn't think about that. Look at that face. Bruh. But yeah, that's an interesting point that I made all those months ago. Which is that him being like, Aegon, the prophecy, it would make more sense for her to be like, oh, you mean the prophecy you told me of you having a son called Aegon on the Iron Throne? Ah, you want your son on the throne? Okay. As opposed to, Aegon, the prophecy, and she's like, Aegon, you mean my son? His name is Aegon. You know, it's like, oh, it's like, I don't know. If they were going to commit to the miscommunication trope, I think they should have handled it a bit more competently.
Is grasping at straws and hearing what she wants to hear after years and years of telling herself and being told that her son must become the heir. Except the director Geeta Patel came out and said, nah, that's not the case. This is another season-wide issue I have with...
Yeah, the intention was she genuinely thought he was telling her that her son was going to be the heir. So a load of people were defending that scene, being like, no, it's fine, she's convincing herself. She knows it's not true, but she's telling herself it's true. She's holding on to that scrap of delusion, essentially, because she's been manipulated, and she's manipulated herself, and she's been so involved in this for like 16 years that for her to suddenly just let it all go because she had one nice night with Rhaenyra, that sounded sexual, because she had a friendly interaction with Rhaenyra, it's like, no, she has to, but it's like, no, but then the director's like, oh no, she genuinely misunderstood what he was saying, lol.
The show. There are lots of fantastic moments that feel like they're supposed to be ambiguous and debatable, but then the showrunner or the director or the episode writer comes out and they just explain it in objective terms. Just like in episode 4, Daemon is about to have sex with his niece, but then he slams the wall with his fist and storms off. Why? Is it guilt over violating her?
Wait. I've got to play that glorious thing in regular speed, actually.
They just explain it in objective terms.
Yeah, I hate this as well, the whole directors and writers and like keep coming out after the episode and being like, oh no, yeah, this open to interpretation scene, this is the objective meaning behind it. We just thought we'd explain it instead of letting you work it out for yourself or come up with different ideas.
Just like in episode 4, Daemon is about to have sex with his niece, but then he slams the wall with his fist and storms off. Why? Is it guilt over violating her? Guilt over betraying his brother? Deliberately teasing her for his own... Oh wait, no, he just can't get it up.
And he basically can't handle not being in charge or in control.
Oh, thanks for
I love that. That picture of Rhaenys just like dissociating.
Or in control.
Oh, thanks for explaining, guys. I really love it when her mystery is taken away completely.
Did you?
Oh, isn't it?
This feels like a good opportunity to talk about my sponsor.
Oh. Leprosy Shadow Legends, okay. Also, this is an underrated meme. Remember the whole Negroni Spagliate with Prosecco in it? Even though Negroni Spagliate is... Spagliato? What is it? Negroni Spagliato has Prosecco in it. So saying with Prosecco in it is a bit redundant. Actually, I'll have you know. Anyway.
Explaining, guys. I really love it when her mystery is taken away completely.
But yeah, that famous TikTok that went viral. Where... Alison Cook's like, Alison Cook, where Living Cook is like, oh, stunning.
It is you.
Oh, stunning.
This feels like a good opportunity.
And here we go. I've got to let this play properly, no speed. Vizzy T Leprosy Legends. This is the first of my famous, perhaps now infamous, fake sponsorships that I used to put in my videos. That people tell me that I should bring it back. They say they love them. They say it was so much fun. But every time I look at the viewer statistics, there's like a massive drop during the little sponsorship. I don't know whether it's people skipping it because they don't realise it's a sponsorship, or whether it's like people maybe have like an app installed that automatically skips what it thinks is a sponsorship. I don't know, but I'm not going to pause this. Brace yourself for Vizzy T Leprosy Legends.
Hey.
This feels like a good opportunity to talk about my sponsor, Vizzy T Leprosy Legends, the viral mobile game in which you stop Viserys from sudden death. Bruh. My favourite character is Grand Maester Melos, who can summon worms and useless ointment. Hell yeah. You know, for just 10 gold dragons a month you can unlock Grand Maester Allwile and his Hermal Remedies. He comes with a special ability known as Medical Competence. Alright, joking aside, someone sponsor me please, I'm genuinely broke. You know?
That was the first one. I had fun making that one. I think that's the last part of the video I made. I went back and edited that together. Shout out to that plane. God damn, interrupting all my live streams. Little did I know that Atlas VPN would come calling for one video. That's the only sponsor I've done. I hear they come in. The more views you get, the more they trickle in. I'm waiting for some proper sponsors.
Who's not broke? Viserys. Look at those gold pajamas. My man looks fly as hell. Yeah, so let's talk about this tragic king.
Oh, the Mr. Incredible meme. I remember this. Does anyone remember this? The whole uncanny Mr. Incredible. Oh yeah, also people roasted me for putting AD instead of AC. That's on me. I can't excuse that. So stupid. I hope someone new joined the stream. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know whether my internet's going weird, but it said that I went from, like, I jumped up to 70 viewers, then down to 64, so I hope someone clicked on the stream and just saw that entire segment. Like, what the fuck is this? But yeah, it looks like, I'll go back to some conversations in the chat. Casper says, there are rumours that Alicent will poison Aegon. I mean, we wouldn't know, would we? Because that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen in season 2. There's not going to be any poisoning shenanigans in season 2. That'll be way later. So, like, I don't know. I don't think that's true. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but we wouldn't know about it, I think. Kat says, oh yeah, no, Reeve. I've read that one out. Oh no, Kat says, I definitely think Alicent should have been more involved. Even if she was reluctant towards the idea, it would be nice to hear thoughts on it. And then, regarding my discussion of powerful medieval women, Crossfire says, Eleanor of Aquitaine, enough said. The Tudors only rose to power because of the machinations of a woman. And then Callum says, you beat me to it. Victorian, misrepresenting the medieval period, partially the work of the anti-suffragette movement. Interesting. Claiming that life was better. Yeah, kind of, back in the day before these suffragette movements, we had honour and chivalry and nobility. The men were in power and the women did as they were told, like in the medieval times, which we idealise and romanticise. And it was a misrepresentation that's, like, super powerful. Like, it's completely taken over our understanding of what the medieval period was. I read a great article in The Guardian a while ago. I can't remember who wrote it. But it was basically saying that the history of men and women, male-female relations, shouldn't, in the West at least, shouldn't be seen as, like, one side dominating the other. It should be seen as a tug of war, right? Depending on, well, if you're going through the whole world, depending on the country, depending on the culture, depending on the time, depending on the system, the rope was being tugged at a different level with a different amount of strength to varying degrees of success, right? So the argument in that article was that after medieval times, women actually were less empowered because the Renaissance era saw the rise of organisations and guilds and enterprises that discriminated against women, and so it was no longer, because it was no longer hereditary. Well, there was hereditary stuff, but these things were not hereditary, and so they became dominated by men that then only hired men. And the argument is that women of different classes just were not as powerful as they were in medieval times, which is quite interesting. I'd have to read more into it, but yeah. Yeah, Morgan says there's an element of us projecting our ideas of the past onto inaccurate fiction too. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes projecting the present. People projecting modern day values and ideas onto the past. Or trying to relate things in the past to modern things. And, you know, it's the whole history repeats. It's like, for me, that's false pattern recognition, right? Being like, this thing that's happening in this place is just like 1930s Germany. It's like, no, it's not. There's only one thing that was like 1930s Germany, and that was 1930s Germany. because apples are not oranges, right? So when you had like Miguel Sapochnik coming out and kind of making weird like linking House of the Dragon stuff to like modern political stuff, like in the first episode where Emma is in breach and then there's an operation and they take the child out and she dies and so on, and then Miguel Sapochnik is somehow kind of linking it to Roe v. Wade in America, and it's like, dude, this is not relevant. This is not stop trying to tie weird modern political stuff into... I assume it's a marketing technique. It's the whole kind of, a relevant topic, this will get people chatting, sharing it on Twitter, blah blah blah, and not an actual, like, I don't know. Yeah, actually, having just said that, a comment further off the chat is, from Crossfire again, is Miguel Sapochnik really needed to learn to shut his mouth in so many... Yeah, he did. Right. Yeah, I'll carry on playing while I check the rest of the chat.
Look, if I'm going to criticise aspects of this episode that stem from season-wide issues, I've just got to praise it as well for wrapping up a fantastic season-wide arc. For sure, this episode would not be the great send-off it is without the previous episode setting up Viserys so beautifully. But on its own merits, The Lord of the Tides manages to be his best showing yet. George R.R. Martin himself stated that the show's adaptation of the 5th Targaryen king is better than his book counterpart, and I have to agree. In Fire and Blood, he's an amusing plot device. In Hot D, well, to paraphrase Gurm himself, he embodies tragic majesty. He is a good man, a man who loves his daughter, a man who loves his realm, a man who craves peace, throughout the realm and within his own family. He is also a flawed man, admittedly. His ego stops him from truly appreciating the peace he has sustained. He is prone to many poor political decisions, and he's both blind to and incapable of solving the internecine Targaryen rift. All season long, Viserys is physically falling apart, just like his family, and soon, just like his realm. I love his...
Watching this is like when you write... Like when back at university, I'd write like an essay, and I'd reread it, and I'd be like, who wrote this? This wasn't me. I didn't write this. I'm listening to this being like, who wrote this script? Why does this sound weirdly, like, competent? I'm not used to this. It's been a while.
His design this episode. The blend of practical and visual effects looks stunning for TV, and Paddy's performance of a dying old man is shockingly believable. I also like the Leper King vibe they went with for that mask.
I've kind of embraced the Targaryen realness, but...
The dinner scene is beautifully tragic, as is his death scene, but Viserys' greatest scene is also the best scene of the episode. Nah, scratch that. The best scene of the entire show. No dragons, no battles, no blood, no boobs, no funny dwarf jokes.
Very hot take from me that Viserys is the best part of the show. Scorching hot take. Also, I've got to slow down the speed for when there are some great memes coming.
Blood, no boobs, no funny dwarf jokes.
At least your balls won't freeze off.
Just a dying old man walking.
Thank you very much.
Sit in a chair.
You're welcome.
In a vacuum, this scene is nothing. But with the music, the direction, and the context of what's come before, it's beautiful. The director Gita Patel made a deliberate choice to follow Viserys through the length of the throne room, and at no point when watching and rewatching do I ever get bored. Viserys, lucid but pain, forces himself into a throne of blades one last time to defend his daughter. But the best individual moment of this entire scene is actually improvised, as many of you have probably heard. Daemon picking up the crown for Viserys was the first time I actually teared up watching Hot D. Gita Patel said that a reconciliatory Daemon speech at the dinner scene was cut from this episode, both for pacing reasons and because this crown moment undercuts it, apparently. Personally, I trust this decision. When it comes to visual media, if you can summarize an entire speech in a single moment and create the same level of emotional resonance, you've succeeded. What a great character. Great character, great send-off. I always knew the time skips were coming, but for a lot...
Okay, so we've explored book versus show, we had the sponsor pop in, and then Ode to Viserys. I didn't have much to like pause and say there, just because there's not much to say. Like, Viserys is great, Paddy Considine was great. He was robbed. Not even a nomination, not even an Emmy nomination. It's ridiculous. Glidus's piss take for episode 10, where he's like, how did Bryan Cranston get nominated for Succession? That's like a legacy award, you know? He's in 3 fucking episodes of season 4. It's like, yeah, he's good in them because he's Bryan Cranston. But we're just doing a kind of, let's nominate him because he's Bryan Cranston instead of Brian Cox. God damn it. Brian Cox. Not Bryan Cranston, Brian Cox. God damn it. Yes, Brian Cox. Okay. But yeah, he's Brian Cox should not be there for best. Is it best supporting, right? No, that should be Paddy Considine. Come on.
Of watches, they were pretty disorienting, and I don't blame them. Imagine never seeing any of the promos or trailers and then starting episode 6.
I must admit...
Oh wait, I've got to pause the... Maybe I shouldn't have this on full speed. I don't want to skip through all the memes, you know?
Admit... my confusion.
I'm a bit confused.
Episode 8.
I had lots of fun with that one.
Handles the 6-year time skip very well. It helps that the longest and most jarring skip has already happened, and by this point the audience knows this is a season that spans lots of time. The episode can afford to be slower, unlike episode 6, which was rushing through way too much content. Things are allowed to breathe, and most of the child recasts are given proper introductions. Speaking of time skips, the age-ups are kind of weird in this show, aren't they? By this point, at least 20 and a half years have passed since episode 1. Daemon doesn't really age, but you know what? Neither does Matt Smith, so sue him.
Yeah, that's true. Matt Smith does not age. I'm okay with Daemon not aging much.
I appreciate Matt Smith holding himself differently after the time skip. He's way more reserved, slightly hunched, less swaggy. Well, slightly less swaggy.
Yeah, like young Daemon is like he has that like swagger where like his arm, he's got the Vince McMahon walk, the Conor McGregor walk. His arms are like flapping about. He's got that bit of a lean when he stands straight back. And then older Daemon is, like I said, slightly hunched. He does this thing where his hands are held out in front of him. He frowns a lot more. His voice is quieter. Like he does change after that time jump. He changes the way he holds himself.
Even his voice is a bit quieter, not as smug. And although I hate that wig in particular, it does age him up a bit. I've got no defense for Kristen though. They just didn't care, did they? Look at this man. Look, I can buy his early 20s with the long hair and early 30s with the short hair, fine. But you're telling me this guy's around 40? Really? Really? Actually, no, he's Dornish, isn't he? No, I believe it. Raina?
Yeah, they've tried to rectify that. It looks like for season 2, they've fucked up his cut. They've given him a new haircut that does make him look older, but still not that much older.
Era and Alison.
Thank you for the super chat from Geordie Wolf, who says, "Hot take, Lord Haven. Hot D Viserys is us in CK3." in what sense? I guess in the sense of he's just trying to keep the realm together and gets an illness and he's slowly dying. He's like, no, I need to secure an heir. Stop.
And actually feel like they have aged since episode 7. Ray was fatigued and overwhelmed while Alison was frustrated and grasping, but now they both radiate more confidence. That hairstyle along with the modest dress really ages Alison in particular. I can buy that these women are now mid-30s, mostly just in the way that they act. Aged Gon doesn't really look like young Gon, but Tom Glencarny played an older version of Ty Tennant in the Tolkien movie, so that's the logic behind that casting, I guess. I don't mind it that.
The phrase Ty Tennant in the Tolkien movie is weirdly satisfying to say and listen to, just throwing that out there.
That much. They're both pretty good. Also, daily reminder that Ty Tennant is the son of the 10th Doctor and the Doctor's daughter, who's literally also the 5th Doctor's daughter, making him the Doctor's son and the Doctor's daughter's son and the Doctor's grandson, and in Hot D he's the 11th Doctor's nephew. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just to clarify if you didn't catch that, Ty Tennant is the adoptive son of David Tennant and the biological son of Georgia Moffat, who's David Tennant's wife. Now, David Tennant was the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who, and Georgia Moffat, who he's married to, played the 10th Doctor's daughter. Not really his daughter, like a clone of his DNA, but referred to as his daughter. So, and even more interestingly, Georgia Moffat is the daughter herself. She's the daughter of Peter Davison, who played the 5th Doctor, which means that Ty Tennant is the adoptive son of the Doctor, the biological son of the Doctor's daughter, and the grandson of the Doctor. And the nephew of Matt Smith, who was also the Doctor.
Tom is suitably gross and kinda neurotic, although he's able to bring some vulnerability to the role.
Some people are going to hate me for calling him gross. I don't mean visually. I mean, like, the character's gross. Don't hate on me, okay?
Aegon is a drunk, lecherous, pathologically bored and insecure young man.
I'm not sure what pathologically bored means. I don't know if that makes sense.
Fortunately, Alicent uses this opportunity to teach him the importance of consent and power dynamics in sexual encounters, while punishing him justly for committing a crime, stripping him of his titles and— oh wait, no, she just slaps him. I have issues with Hot D Aegon as a character that I'll be diving into in my next video. For now, I'll just say I think it was a mistake to turn him from a spoiled, pervy, lazy teen with a surprisingly likeable honesty into a Joffrey tier sadist. And I think it's extremely weird that the people behind the scenes actually agree with me, but like I said, that's for another video.
I've done everything you've asked me to, and I tried so hard, but it will never be enough for you or Father.
Violin emojis out for Aegon. Give me the violin emoji. He deserves it. Blubbering and crying because he got slapped. After doing things that cannot be mentioned on live stream lest I be demonetized. Oh, the actress who he abuses, Diana, is going to be in season 2 of the show, so I'm intrigued. What role is she going to play? I have no idea.
Helena might be the best recast of the Hightower batch. Thea Saban perfectly captures the spacey innocence of her younger counterpart. Jason Luke really looked like strong boy fan art come to life. Jacaerys is more confident and prone to anger, while Lucerys is more unsure of himself and a bit immature. They don't have too much screen time, but the episode does a good job differentiating White Boy 1 from White Boy 2.
They're white.
I think that's everyone.
It's so stupid.
Right? Did I miss anyone important? Alright, yeah, this absolute chat.
Shout out to Aemond. This is where I just simp over Aemond, I think, for the rest of this chapter. Look at Chadmond.
Plot twist, Daemon had a love child with himself and called him Aemond.
Have sex!
I've never seen a live action character who looks more like fantasy fan art than actual fantasy fan art. Oh yeah, in no universe is this a 16 or 17 year old, but who cares? His presence is quiet and intimidating, and it's no surprise.
A reminder that he's meant to be like 16 or 17.
He's
The actor's like 1 year older than me. That's depressing. Like, he's in a major TV show. He's in movies. I make cartoon videos on YouTube. God damn it.
quickly become a fan favourite. Look at this man. He's trying so hard to be Daemon. I suppose deep down he's still that traumatised 10-year-old who went from insecurity to egomania to bitter spite over the course of a nighttime theme park ride and a scuffle round the back of Greg's. When Vizzy T is away...
Shout out to Greg's. Anyone here from the UK? Shout out to Greg's.
The children will play. And by play, of course, I mean grievous bodily harm and battery.
Each of them handsome, wise.
Say it.
Speaking of battery...
It's so dumb.
No, I can't find a good segue. But speaking of segues, let's explore the visual storytelling of Lord of the Tides.
So visual storytelling and little moments is the next chapter.
Something about this episode...
This again, I sound like such a dick saying this. I sound like such a prick. This is better than I thought it would be. Like, I went into this being like, is this going to be like cringy? It's not that bad. I actually make some good points. I think the audio's not great, and the pacing is mostly good. There are some pacing issues. And just like editing, less pacing, more editing issues. There should be tighter cuts, but and obviously the actual like shots I have are very low quality, but it's not too shabby.
From the writing to the directing, just had a little bit extra. It's not afraid to convey story and character through visuals. For instance, the Valyrian imagery and erotica has been stripped down this episode and replaced with prudish faith symbolism. An unsurprising move from the high towers of Old Town, which is basically like Vatican City mixed with Oxford. Alison's dress and hair is also far more conservative and boasts the 7-pointed star, keeping with the tradition of her revolving fashion sense throughout the season. You have the innocence of the blue dress, the submission of the Targaryen red dress, and the defiance of the Hightower green dress. This outfit displays her outwardly pious persona, but it disappears from the story, at the end of the episode when the friendship temporarily heals, and in episode 9 in the face of a crisis. The gap between Rhaenyra and Alicent isn't subtle, but it's a nice reference to Doug Wheatley's famous drawing from Fire and Blood. Some fans have even noticed that the blacks always appear on the left side of Viserys, and the greens on his right side. In the bedroom, in the throne room, even at dinner. Is this a visual way of associating the greens with corruption and blindness, like the rotting side of Viserys' face? Or is it just a fun fan theory? I don't know, but I like that these are the kinds of discussions people are having. This is also an episode of little moments, you know, the ones that don't need to be there but add so much to the characters. There's a fantastic callback to episode 1 I didn't even notice in my first couple of watches.
Damon. Brother.
So, I don't clarify what the callback is in this because I think I couldn't find the... Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I smacked the desk again with my knee because I couldn't find the moment because I didn't have the footage. Right, I was scouring for YouTube. This was a nightmare to make. Anyway, what was I talking about? Shit, I forgot. Oh yes, in episode 1, Viserys walks into the council room and he's like, Daemon. And Daemon's sitting there looking all smug, wearing the gold cloak, like, brother. And then they do a callback here with Viserys on the bed, like, Daemon. And he's like, brother.
Or how about the moment after Daemon snips Vaemond and we see the Hightower's reactions? Aegon looking shook, Aemond looking fascinated, and Helena covering her ears as if she's overstimulated, feeding into that neurodivergent vibe they've given her. And speaking of the Hightowers, we're given two simple...
I think it was David Lightbringer who did a stream about, I think it was it was a video about Helena. Maybe it was a live stream, I can't remember. But he was like, oh, maybe she's covering her ears because it's something relating to her, that mystic nature, you know, is it dragon dream related? Is she hearing something? I think his argument that she might be hearing the spirit of Vaemond, right? That she can hear the dead, or so there's some, you know, classic David Lightbringer kind of mystical, crazy, convoluted theory, and it's lots of fun. Go and subscribe to David Lightbringer. But I remember watching that just being like, I don't know, is it not very clearly meant to be like an autism thing? That like she's overstimulated, so she's covering her ears and looking away? I don't know.
Neurodivergent vibe they've given her. And speaking of the Hightowers, we're given two simple but very effective moments that show Otto's relationship with his grandchildren. He glares at Aegon, disapproving of his alcoholism, but nods reassuringly.
Sorry to interrupt, but Mink in the chat said they love Greg's all about the steak bake. Mate, it's all about the sausage roll. What are you on about? Steak bake. Give me that sausage roll. Come on.
At Helena after her awkward speech. Wait, is he gripping his sword in anticipation of a fight? Well, I guess he is a knight after all. That's a nice touch. You know?
Oh, Callum says, I've been doing auditions, and now if I get something, I'm going to hold that over you. Callum, if you're not memeing, if you're doing auditions, I hope you get into something. I hope you get a role.
For my episode 8 review, I had a fun bit where I called out everyone's familial connection to Viserys to highlight the inbred absurdity of it all. But I can't just repeat the same meme, right? Screw it, here you go. What a lovely dinner. So nice of Vizzy T to invite.
Okay, this is one of my favourite moments. Targaryen Supper Redux. This is just the meme I did in my episode 8 review. That was my old thumbnail for episode 8. I wanted to redo it for this one. I'm just going to let it play.
Screw it, here you go. What a lovely dinner. So nice of Vizzy T to invite his wife, Handan father-in-law, second grandson, firstborn daughter and daughter-in-law, firstborn son and son-in-law, eldest grandson and first cousin twice removed and step-nephew and eventual nephew-in-law, eldest niece and first cousin twice removed and first cousin's ward and eventual granddaughter-in-law, second grandson and first cousin twice removed and step-nephew and eventual nephew-in-law, second niece and first cousin twice removed and daughter's ward and eventual granddaughter-in-law, brother and son-in-law and first cousins once removed a widow and granddaughter stepfather, and finally his daughter? Sister-in-law? First cousin once removed widow? I'm not sure. But she is the mother of his grandchildren and his nephews. That much is beyond dispute. Alright, enough of that, man.
I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that.
Since, in conclusion, yeah, pretty good, I guess. Great acting, great writing, great directing, and a great conclusion to one of the best characters in the whole show. All adapted from just a few pages in a fake history book. I'd give this episode a 9.5, my highest rated episode of the entire season. Big shout out to the showrunners Ryan Condal and Miguel Sapochnik, as well as the director Geeta Patel and the writer of the episode Eileen Shim. Now there's not a single bad episode of Hot D, but there is one in particular I have some serious issues with. My next video will take a look at the worst episode of Hot D, what I hated, what baffled me, but also the parts I enjoyed. This isn't a negative channel after all. If I'm going to criticise, hey, it's got to be constructive.
Maybe I should. I need more views, I need more subs. I'm going to go negative. I'm going to go rage bait. I'm going to have like highly saturated Rhaenyra like crying and like snot coming out her nose. I'm going to have George R. Martin in the corner with his thumb up his butt. And then there's going to be like in big yellow text, it's going to be like House of the Dragon dead, cringe. House of the Dragon season 2 cringe, ? Ratings collapse and like the like red stock sign crashing onto the floor. 6 figures in a day, boom. I'm going into rage bait.
Fantasy Haven is a pretty new channel, and I can't wait.
Look at that little. Oh wait, this could be fun.
It's gotta be constructive. Fantasy Haven,
pretty new channel, 19 subs. Bear this in mind.
Is a pretty new channel, and I can't wait to explore all kinds of fantasy for you. From fun reviews of movies.
Oh yeah, the promises to do things beyond the Song of Ice and Fire that I haven't done.
Animated lore videos. From fun reviews.
So Lord of the Rings. I mean, I don't know enough about Tolkien, so I don't know what I was thinking I would do. I recently got the Silmarillion specifically to dive into Tolkien and like start doing Tolkien videos, and also obviously not to do Tolkien videos, but to like to enjoy Tolkien. You know, Warhammer 40k. I wasn't even into it back then, so I don't even know why that's there.
Movies, games, TV shows.
Witcher, yes, I do want to do Witcher content. I have read all the books and the games. I've played the books and read the games for sure.
Those books to animated lore videos, all focused on your favourite fantasy worlds. If you enjoyed the video,
hey, there we go. Yeah.
Like, subscribe, check out my Twitter, all of that good stuff. And
check out my Twitter. Check out my Twitter. Okay. I think it's time to move on to the next one. The worst episode of House of the Dragon. So this took me a month to make, and then it blew up unexpectedly. And I went, oh shit, I need to capitalise on this. So then I did this one, and this took me a week. This is nearly 30 minutes, and it took me a week of grinding. I can't even remember if I was... No, I was on my meds. I was on ADHD meds at the time when I made this. That might explain it. Oh. So what did we think of that? What did we think of...
Talking about the worst episode of Hot D.
What did we think of the best episode of Hot D video? Yeah, in relation to the kind of content I make nowadays. Let me know. Love the beach ball eyes. Yeah, that used to be my old intros. The eyes like bouncing onto his head. Maybe I could bring that back. Callum said, I heard about it indirectly through your community. I'm not saying more because... You heard about what indirectly? Wait, did I miss something? I heard about it indirectly through your community. I'm not saying more because I don't want to get into details, but 2023 was shit. You and this community was a huge thing for me. Well, thank you so much. That does mean a lot to me to know that I helped you through that year. It was a very tough year for me as well. And I think this channel kind of saved me, honestly. And that's all down to you guys, that's the fans. So it's a synergy, you know? Symbiotic relationship. But what do you mean by you heard it indirectly? I don't know what you mean. I must have missed something. Do art shorts? AI art shorts, yeah, Casper. Yeah, I'm going to do AI art of like Catelyn with big boobs, and it's like, did you know in the books, Catelyn Tully wanted to bang Littlefinger? And just like clickbait shit like that. I am going to do shorts, but they're going to be proper animated shorts. They're not going to be... I do want to do a video like roasting the dumb AI shorts, honestly. But that could start beef. I don't know if I want to start beef. Callum also said, this is a really dumb suggestion, but God Hirja is a CK3 mod with ridiculous badass lore. Might be worth checking out. No, that's not a ridiculous suggestion. I've heard of God Hirja. Let's just say that I've briefly interacted with the person who made it on something else they made, because I used to work on another project they made. But I've heard great things about God Hirja lore, and I'd happily do videos on God Hirja, actually. I'll add that to my list. Is there a place I can like get started on the lore? Is there like a lore Bible or something? Silent Lord Haven, yes. Sorry for that like 30 seconds of just pure silence while I was looking at the chat. Sorry about that. Okay, see you, Bitter Steel. Have fun. Come back and watch the rest of this live stream. Oh, the auditions, yes. Yes, of course. My bad. Wait, you heard about auditions through my community? Okay. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I guess. The Blackfire stan is gone. Everyone start posting Targaryen propaganda. They have... Okay, God Hirja has a full Google Doc with entire lore. Okay. That sounds good. I mean, I want to... Like I said, I want to expand beyond A Song of Ice and Fire. Obviously, I will always do A Song of Ice and Fire videos, like, once per month at least. But of course I'm going to delve into Avatar, Last Airbender, Dune, I don't know, Elder Scrolls, God Hirja, if I enjoy the lore, Tolkien, Witcher, lots of stuff. Awesome. Why did it skip to this? Well, though. Okay. And of course, when I release my own fantasy saga, my own books, I can do animated lore explaining my own books. Not so sure about that. Okay, but let's delve into the video I released after my surprise hit. This one Didn't do as well, view-wise, but it's the worst episode of House of the Dragon. Let's begin. Talking about the worst episode of Hot D is like discussing the worst ice cream flavour. They're all delicious. The acting, directing and production remained stellar throughout the season, and the writing was mostly great. Mostly. I had issues with Kristen Cole slapping up Joffrey and then getting away with it, the rushed pacing of... So this first chapter is, the intro. Episode 6, Laena's awkward suicide by dragon, but they all pale in comparison to Episode 9, The Green Council.
9 was always a script that we very much enjoyed.
I will not have it! Did you hear me, boy? I will not have it! I will not have this.
This is so stupid. It's Fantasy Haven, your home for all things fantasy. Let's dive straight into it. So, where do I even begin? This episode is confusing and awkward, badly paced, and features one of the most disappointing adaptations from one of the best moments in Fire and Blood. And I'm not even talking about this scene. To find out what went wrong, we've got to go to the source. Don't worry, this video won't spoil any future plot points in Hot D. In the description I have a link to a petition to catapult Sarah Hess into an active volcano for daring to besmirch the holy text of George R.R. No, I'm just kidding. We're not here to nitpick, we're not here for rage bait, we want to constructively criticise this amazing show so it gets even better in the future. There's no need for Season 8 comparisons or petitions to fire people or personal attacks. Yeah, I thought I'd stand by that. The whole petition like fire Sarah Hess, it's like, really? Really? What's HBO gonna do? Yeah, it's just dumb. And people being like, this is like season 8 all over again. Like, no, it's not. It's not season 8. Season 8 was bad. Season 8 was... There's good dialogue in this. There are good ideas. Honestly, there's something I don't address in this episode in this video that I only thought about recently. Which is that maybe the script was actually better, but maybe it was destroyed in the editing process. Not destroyed. Maybe it was worsened in the editing process. Like that, maybe that Green Council scene, because I have noticed the pacing's a bit odd. Maybe that Green Council scene was like 15-20 minutes and it just got cut in half because they're like, we can't fit it, and HBO, are telling us how long an episode should be, and so that's why it's so weird and rushed. I don't know, we never really know who to blame for things, but... Unless they're aimed at Crimby Cole.
It is the only thing I have to fucking name.
So, the episode begins... Now we have the episode summary. Early hours of the morning. Viserys is dead. An urgent council meeting is called, but Alicent is shocked to discover that most of the council have been having lads' nights in Otto's man cave and plotting to steal the throne from Rhaenyra. Beesbury is even more shocked, but is soon sat down to death by Cristinus Colicus, who becomes the new Lord Commander after Harold... Queen Chad destroys Black Cylinder Bay. Westling leaves the sesh early without buying around. Otto wants to assassinate Rhaenyra, but Alicent refuses. This triggers a race against time to find Aegon and influence him. Alicent sends Sir Criston and Aemond, Otto sends the Cargill twins. Soon enough, Mysaria bribes Otto with his own grandson in exchange for some policy U-turns.
Or are you simply a further peel in this stinking onion?
I'm trying to act like that wasn't funny, but... Are you simply a further peel in this stinking onion? And then Shrek bursts through her fucking face. I don't even remember making that. God damn, that was a wild ride. Those early months of 2023. All kind of ideas come to mind. Anyway. Honestly, I can't believe Viserys campaigned against lobbying and allows this to happen. It's just a Team Alicent to catch Aegon first, and this means Rhaenyra won't be assassinated for some reason. Alicent fails to persuade Rhaenys, succeeds in standing up to Otto, and relaxes after a hard day by visiting her only fan for a friendly chat by the fire. The White Worm gets burnt to the ground, Aegon becomes crowned, and Rhaenys doesn't do anything controversial. At all. Let's do this. So, looking at the chapters, I talk about the Green Council, I talk about the hunt for Aegon, and I talk about the Great Girl Boss Massacre of 29 AC. Yeah, these are the three main criticisms I have. Then I think over here I go on to talk about... Oh yeah, I get sponsored by DZ Season 1, and then... Yeah, Alicent Agency, things I liked, blah blah. In Fire and Blood, Viserys' corpse is discovered by a servant delivering wine, who immediately tells Alicent. The royal bedroom is sealed shut, and the servant is taken into custody to prevent the news from... Where's his nose? Where's his nose? Why doesn't he have a nose? God damn it. Look at these knights. My god.
spreading. The small council is hastily summoned in the Queen's chambers. Otto, the Hand, Lord Jasper Wilde, the Master of Laws, Lord Lyman Beesbury, the Master of Coin, Sir Tyland Lannister, the Master of Ships, Grand Maester Orwyle, and Queen Alicent herself. But that's not all. Sir Criston Cole is already the Lord Commander when this fateful council is summoned, and Lord Lara Strong is the Master of Whispers. Grand Maester Orwyle wants to inform Rhaenyra of her father's passing, but Otto shuts him down. He and Alicent want Prince Aegon to take the island.
So I'll be doing a similar thing, as I said, with my book versus show videos, where I'm like, oh, when I hit episode 9, it's going to be like, yeah, the Green Council is slightly different. They talk about this thing, and then hopefully the art and the animation will be a bit more interesting, a bit more engaging.
That's right. He has no such luck with Lyman Beesbury, who stands his ground.
Honestly, did I give him like B buttons? That's incredible. I love that. Shout out to my boy Beesbury.
In favour of Rhaenyra, a long debate ensues in which both sides make their case. Beesbury argues that Rhaenyra is the eldest sibling and was proclaimed the heir by King Viserys himself, who refused to change his mind despite siring sons. Oaths of fealty to Rhaenyra were spoken by all the lords and ladies of Westeros decades ago. Thanks to the quiet cowardice of Orwyle, Beesbury stands alone. However, Sir Tyland argues that many who swore fealty have passed away, replaced by heirs who spoke no such vows. Lord Wilde, also known as Ironrod, obsesses over the long-held tradition of firstborn male inheritance, as well as the precedent set by the Great Council of 101. Otto declares that the true monarch would not be Rhaenyra, but her husband Daemon Targaryen, who would rule as a cruel tyrant. Alicent...
Why is he being burnt at the stake? What the fuck? I think this must be like... Going back to History Haven, this must be an old History Haven... Yeah, background... Oh my god, I haven't used this in ages. A History Haven background, probably going to be, that Queen video I talked about, Mary the First, burning people at the stake. I have a feeling it must have been that, and then I was like, oh, I need to use some background, I don't have enough time, I'll use this one. So it's Daemon just burning Otto at the stake. Hey, maybe that's a season 2 leak, I don't know.
Tyrant. Alicent agrees, claiming that Rhaenyra and Daemon would order the death of her children. Even Criston chimes in, bluntly stating that Rhaenyra's sons are bastards who would transform the keep into a brothel. Larys.
Yeah, it's disappointing that Criston doesn't even say anything during that council scene. Like, he comes in and he's like, she will turn the Red Keep into her whorehouse, and she has bastards that will take the throne. And it's like, yo, what are you talking? Well, calm down. He just doesn't say anything in the episode, though.
Curiously, says nothing the entire time. Beesbury finally has enough and rises to leave, refusing to take part in this coup. As you probably know, Fire and Blood contains multiple in-universe sources, and Lord Beesbury's fate is up for debate. One source says that Sir Otto ordered the old man to be thrown into the Black Cells, where he died of a chill. Another...
That's not even art, that's just a picture of a cell.
Sir Otto ordered the old man to be thrown into the Black Cells, where he...
Come on, what is this?
...died of a chill. Another states that Sir Criston Cole sliced his neck open at the table there and then. One source even claims that Sir Criston grabbed him by the collar, marched him to the window, and threw him to his death below. The Greens plan for the coronation, draw up a list of potential allies, and send Sir Criston to arrest black loyalists in court.
Where are the noses, damn it? How do they smell?
Lord Larys slices open his palm and calls for a blood oath, bonding the conspirators as they grasp each other's bleeding hands.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that shit happens. Like, Larys isn't there in the show, and I think that they're slow walking him becoming Master Whispers, him slowly accumulating power. I'm okay with that. That's a cool idea. Also, the whole blood oath, they'll cut their hands and that is weird. I think that would have been a bit out of place in the show, I do admit.
The Green Council in Hot D happens in, 5 minutes? I don't know, who cares about politics and plots? Let's get to the chase scene. Whoa, look, he's running. There's a sword fight. Whoa, this is awesome. Yeah. No. This part of Fire and Blood might be my favourite, honestly. Sinister plots in the dark, debates of succession while the king rots away in his room, murder and intrigue galore. In my mind, I thought this scene would encompass half of the episode at least. You know, a long, tense, dialogue-driven bottle episode, showcasing great writing and acting. The tension would grow and grow, the elastic band would stretch and stretch before the scene snaps into sudden violence and Lord Beesbury is murdered. George, have a word with Tarantino, let him write this episode. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. George, no! Now, just because this...
God damn it. The feet memes. The feet memes. I remember when I first saw that leak about the Alicent foot scene, I was like, that's not true. That's not true. Somewhere on Reddit, I stumbled upon it. I was like, no. And then in the episode, she started taking her things off. I was like, oh no. Oh no. scene didn't turn out how I personally imagined it doesn't make it bad. I didn't expect the crab feeder to be killed off screen, but I think it worked, honestly. Change isn't inherently bad either, obviously. Viserys is objectively a better character in the show. But this scene completely fails in its intentions. It is far too rushed and awkward to be tense. The plotting, the scheming, the debate about succession, which could have effectively showcased and summarised the arguments of both sides in a fun way, it's all reduced to a few lines of dialogue shouted off screen and cut short by constant interruptions. They're talking about the treasury and their oh no, Alicent's interrupted them. Oh, Beesbury and the Greens are arguing about, oh no, they're getting interrupted again. I've been waiting for Beesbury to have his dramatic moment all season, and the show was actually setting up so well, portraying him as this... No, Flippy, why did you have to join when I was talking about feet? You don't understand. That it's not right. No, listen, hear me out. I'm saying, yeah, no, my doddering, forgetful old man who everyone ignores and talks over. But when his time comes... No, he barely says anything, and then he gets awkwardly sat down to death onto a metal ball. I can't believe I just said that sentence out loud. Why didn't they give him his dramatic debate? Or dramatic death? Throw him out the window, or if that's too over the... See, this is why I'm now thinking the episode may have been strictly edited down. Right? Like, the bit where he's like, whether it was one of you, or none of you, matters not. You know, when he's saying about whether people killed Viserys. And then it, like, cuts to him going, I will have no part in it. And it's, like, really energized. And it's like, maybe he did have, like, an entire speech. And it just got cut down for timing. And that's why the pacing's so bad. And that's why it's kind of lame. Maybe he had his book speech. And then he got killed. But then it got edited down into, you know, him going from being like, it matters not, to suddenly being like, I shall have no part in this. Sit down. And then... head on the ball. The top, go for the throat slash. Hell, even throwing him into the black cells would have felt more impactful. Okay, anyone in the chat who refers to Alicent's feet or her toes as Piggly Wigglies will be permanently banned from Fantasy Haven. I'll get a restraining order on you. I'll kick you from the chat. I will have men watch you from afar and keep me informed on your whereabouts. You can stay though. I'll let you stay. You're going off with a warning, Nick. I'm letting you go. Full and scary. This death is just so weird. Everyone just sort of ignores him afterwards. Alicent doesn't even support the coup at first, but Beesbury's killed and she just rubs her face like, oh, what a day I'm having. Oh, this sucks.
I can't believe you've done this.
Do they want to make Sir Chungus less villainous by turning the murder into a kind of manslaughter? I mean, he's already more villainous at this point than his book counterpart, because he murders Joffrey Lonmouth at a wedding instead of killing him at a tourney, where there's plausible deniability.
Calls everybody in the room a liar and a traitor and then dies for it, but goes out in a very unexpected but I think honorable way.
Speaking of all... unexpected but honorable, and then he's like... ugh.
Liar and a traitor and then dies for it, but goes out in a very unexpected but I think honorable way.
Speaking of awkward, Sir Harold has been turned into an actual character in the show, which means he's still alive by this point. I like this idea in theory, but obviously it wouldn't make sense for his character to support the coup, so he just leaves. Where's he going? Are they going to stop him, or... No? Okay then. This is of the utmost secrecy, no one can leave... Oh yeah, Harold, you can go home if you want, it's fine. We're going to hang a distant lord in public later anyway, so whatever. Oh, in case you're wondering, I'll get into Alicent later. Which is probably what Christian wants to do as well, let's be honest. Oh, that was a good one. That caught me by surprise. I love these videos where I watch my own video. These streams where I watch my videos and compliment myself. What a narcissist. Unsubscribe. D Season 1 is only based on around 60 pages or so of Fire of Blood. For context, Episode 8 covers the span of like... Why is everyone in the chat talking about feet? Can we move... The foot discussion comes later in the video. Let's move past the feet. Let's move past the Piggly Wigglies, okay? 3 pages. The Green Council, not the episode, but the council meeting itself, is 5 entire pages of description and dialogue. The writers managed to craft a complex season out of a bare-bones story, and then adapt the most detailed section into an awkward, underwhelming episode. How is that even possible? I'm more impressed than annoyed. Like, well done, I guess. Yeah, that's a good... Honestly, arguably the most detailed scene in the entire Dance of the Dragons and build-up is those 4 pages of Green Council, and that's what's condensed into the shortest thing. It's baffling. It's so baffling.
Instead of abrupt interruptions and references to long-laid plans, I wanted to experience these people actually plotting and scheming and discussing their course of action. I wanted to see the debate unfold, the strengths and flaws of both sides laid bare.
This should have been the tense focal point of the episode, not that goofy-ass chase scene. Don't underestimate your audience, Hot D. We don't just want chase. If you're wondering why there's like a weird, like a vignette, like barrier around here, I think it's because I ripped this video from YouTube, and there was like something on the outside that I tried to get rid of, so I used this. And fights, we enjoy dialogue, we enjoy politicking when it's done. So I was trying not to hiccup there. Right. Now, as I said before, change isn't inherently good or bad, it just is. There's some decent changes here. The lack of Larys is an interesting touch. In the show, he's not even the Master of Whispers, he's Alicent's supposed lackey. And I'm glad that they removed the blood oath scene. Can you imagine Hot D Otto agreeing to cut his palm and hold this greasy dickhead's hand just because he said so? Yeah, no. And all while being all in on the conspiracy, as opposed to a spineless weasel who gets peer pressured, I guess that kind of helps to streamline things. Oh yeah, it's not really relevant, but this bull roll is just so satisfying.
Bruh.
Now I could so stupid. Why? I'm glad I don't remember half my own jokes because it's actually getting me. Forgive the pacing here if the rest of the episode was good. Episode 6, also written by Sarah Hess, who wrote this one. It's rushed, but it sort of had to be rushed. It was cramming in a lot of plot points, and honestly it did a good job in my opinion. But we rushed this important scene in order to dive into an unnecessarily lengthy and goofy Scooby-Doo chase. Are you kidding me? Gotta catch them all.
In Fire and Blood, Queen Alicent dispatches the 5 Kingsguard in the Red Keep to summon Aemond and Aegon. Aemond is training in the courtyard, but Aegon is nowhere to be found.
I'm like using a different audio thing for this bit, aren't I? It sounds completely different. I think I may be using voice meter for this chapter. Interesting. As usual, the different sources have different stories. The virtuous Septon Eustace claims that Aegon was spending time with a wealthy paramour. Okay, I am actually going to speed this up a bit. I don't want to miss out on the memes, but I'm going to speed it so that we can get to points that I want to talk about a bit more. Indiana Jones Dog says, "Hello, Lord Bracken. Hello to you. I am in a, Crusader Kings 3 roleplay server, and I've been assigned as Lord Jonas Bracken himself." Clearly the dog outside is not happy with that information. Neither is the plane going overhead while the dog is barking at the same time. This is such an unprofessional stream. Shush. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, the salacious mushroom accuses the prince of being drunk and naked in a rat pit, watching 2 children fight each other while a young girl pleasured him. It's worth noting, by the way, that neither of the sources were actually there. Either way, Aegon is reluctant to be king, arguing that his elder sister is the heir. Christian persuades him otherwise. Does he want to be executed by Rhaenyra? Does he want her bastard sons to take precedence over him? You can tell I didn't have many backgrounds a year ago, because they're like talking on a hill. They're just talking on a hill for no reason. Finally capitulates. In Hot D, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the hell is going on.
I'm falling.
Quinn the GM is in the chat. Hey Quinn, what's going on? It's my second anniversary. Not my second year anniversary, but my second anniversary. 25th of September, my friend, was when my channel was started. 2nd of January was when I posted a best episode of Hot D, and I actually started my YouTube career because I had like 19 subs at this point. So I kind of count this as my actual anniversary, you know what I'm saying? Quinn, live stream. This week, if you're free, my friend. If you're free, my boy. Live stream. Or next year. Next week. Maybe next week. I really want to do that A Song of Ice and Fire characters on trial live stream. I might do it with Quinn, might do it by myself, depends on who wants to do what. But I've been teasing that one for quite a bit, and I reckon that'll be a fun one. So, Aegon is missing because he's a drunk scoundrel and 2 teams are dispatched. Someone in the chat is saying no, don't speed it up. Okay. Let me know in the chat if you want me to speed it up or not. I'll go down to normal speed if someone's saying no.
I've fallen.
So, Aegon is missing because he's a drunk scoundrel and 2 teams are dispatched to find him. Oh, Thursday, Quinn. Likely Thursday? I can do Thursday. I'm free Thursday. I'm free every day. I'm self-employed. Okay. In that case, I will try and prepare in advance, work out what characters we're going to talk about and what crimes they're responsible for and how they should be punished under the American law system legal system because, you know, you're a lawyer. I'm not. You're Saul Goodman. I'm not. I have the perfect thumbnail. I'm making the thumbnail. It will be on Quinn's channel probably, because we do a load of live streams on my channel. It's kind of not fair that he doesn't get to do it on his. But I'm definitely doing the thumbnail. You can't even stop me.
The hunt for Aegon is too long, too confusing, and everyone is walking around in these dumb outfits. It's half a page in Fire and Blood. It didn't need to drag out like this.
Why is he wearing that hat?
Honestly, this episode kind of makes Aemon...
Can we talk about Kristen's hat? the little hat. Goofy motherfucker.
Not cool like it was in the previous one. The bit where he just stands still and starts expositing about wanting...
Flippy said Littlefinger, grooming and tax fraud. Oh, there's a litany more crimes I think you can associate with Littlefinger. There's a lot more than just tax fraud. Oh, Littlefinger's like Al Capone or some shit. Is like, he'll get away with all the murder and the abuse and manipulation and war profiteering, but like he'll get arrested on tax fraud. It's like embezzlement is going to be what gets him. It's like, shit. God damn it.
To be king.
It is I, the younger brother, who studies history and philosophy. It is I who trains with the sword, who rides the largest dragon in the world. It is I...
Okay, that's harsh. That's just a compilation of people sleeping. I thought that scene was very awkwardly written. It is I who study philosophy and the arts. And it's like, okay, we show don't tell. Show us this. You don't need him to like... But then again, there's a lot to cram in only 10 episodes, so I am very sympathetic to that kind of stuff.
Eric, Thing 1 and Thing 2, that's it. How are we meant to tell the difference? Like, I get it, they're identical twins and there's a story reason for this, but it was kind of important for the audience to understand who was who. I mean, this is the only time they're not in identical Kingsguard armour. They could literally be wearing anything and the costume department gave them the same look.
Hello, Carl, in the chat. Hi, Carl. Nice to see you.
Why? Luckily for everyone, Mysaria is here to cut it short. Viceroy Gunray negotiates directly with Otto I Cuntnova.
Okay, this is one of my favourite jokes. This one I actually remember. Again, I know I'm watching my own video and saying how much I like my own content. I'm just embracing it at this point. This one, I worked hard on this one.
Here to cut it and gave them the same look. Why? Luckily for everyone, Mysaria is here to cut it short. Viceroy...
Yeah, Quinn's saying, I think they have different facial hair. Yes, I think one of them does actually have... like their moustache turns upwards slightly and the other one has a moustache that turns downwards, but you telling me you know who's who? No. That's so weird. It's so weird that they didn't just give them different outfits. Like, I get it, they look the same, that's the point. They look the same in Kingsguard armour, that's fine for a future plot point. But in this, they are literally not wearing Kingsguard armour, and you deliberately want to show them as two different people. One who's sympathetic to, well, one who doesn't seem to like Aegon, and one who's saying it's our duty, it doesn't matter what he does in his free time. But you just have them wear the same fucking thing, and I was just watching it being like, who is speaking right now? Ugh. Anyway.
Here to cut it short. Viceroy Gunray negotiates directly with Otto I Cuntnobi, offering Aegon's location in exchange for the banning of child fighting pits. Wait, why is he still wearing his pin under the disguise? Everything about this section just feels off.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
The negotiations were short.
I like... Thank you very much. I'm so many layers to that. So many layers to that. Also looks like a damn Jedi. Negotiations were short. Mysaria's dumb accent sounding like the weirdly offensive Gungan accents. Now there are two of them. The twins. I know, I'm a genius.
I like the change to Mysaria, actually.
See, the difference between, like, talking about an animated... When I talk about my animated videos, I can talk about, like, the process behind it. But with these, it's just, like, I have put clips together and edited them. I've also noticed that I think the timing of the jokes and, like, the audio and the editing is already in this video, even though this came out a week after Best Episode, it's already better than Best Episode. Like, there's already a step up in quality, I think.
Yeah, her accent sucks, but I do like the woman of the people with a vast spy network approach. Her spy Talia is a cool addition too.
Yes, Nymoidian. I don't know why I said Gungan. I'm not a massive Star Wars buff, but, like, I know enough that that the Trade Federation is not ruled by Gungans. I know that. I don't know why I said Gungan. Please ignore me.
I wonder how she got the role. So Aemond and Christonosaurus Rex.
Oh yeah, Christonosaurus Rex. Yeah, the maid is
by network approach.
Is Miguel Sapochnik's sexy Russian wife,
who apparently had, well, I don't know if this is fully true, but allegedly she had more say in the creative aspects of the show than she should have in terms of how women were represented. Some people say that she pushed for the whole, things like Alicent not knowing about the coup and trying to portray Rhaenyra and Alicent as the sensible ones in rooms full of angry idiot men who are pushing towards war, and they're trying to pull back and getting rid of the more ruthless elements from the book. And I don't know how true that is. It could easily just be people trolling, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But it does. I would be surprised if it were Ryan Condal who massively changed those specific elements of Rhaenyra and Alicent's characters. Again, I talked about this earlier, not necessarily making them more sympathetic or putting them in toning them down so they can have an arc and reach a new stage of character development like later on in the show, but more the weird sort of insistence of how oppressed women are in Westeros and how they have no power and things would be better, and all that stuff that I've already discussed is isn't there in the books and wasn't there in medieval history, and is a kind of a bastardization of how we understand of what gender roles were in the past as influenced by Victorian values and manipulation and so on. So I talked about that earlier, but some people say it was Miguel Sapochnik's wife that is responsible for those weird kind of, I guess, sort of just weird changes, and including, I've even heard, making Aegon worse, aka making him a R-wordist and do the whole fighting pit thing, pushing for that because they needed to, stripping away the nuance and making it more black and white to emphasize that Aegon's side represents patriarchy and therefore is bad, and Rhaenyra's side represents anti-patriarchy, which is therefore good, which is ridiculous because that's not what those sides represent really. Especially Rhaenyra, she does not fully represent anti-patriarchy in her character, at least. She goes on to do some quite hypocritical stuff. And Aegon's side, the sustaining patriarchy is more of an excuse than an actual reason. It's an excuse to justify more insidious and complex reasons as to why people are pushing for Aegon. But I talked about this earlier in the live stream where we discussed women in medieval times and Renaissance era and Victorian values being put on the past as the, to push anti-suffrage, push an anti-suffrage agenda and so on. Quinn's saying I don't buy that. Yeah, I don't know where that rumour comes from. I don't know if it's just someone being like, oh, there are some aspects of the story we don't like. It must have been a woman who influenced it, and it's Miguel's Russian wife. It's yeah, or it could be genuine leaks, and I don't know. But either way, she got the role of a maid because she is his wife. A cheeky bit of nepotism. She's good though. I do have to say she is good in the role. She doesn't do much, but she's good in it. Maybe I'm being cynical. Her spy Talia is a cool addition too. I wonder how she got the role. So Aemond and Christonosaurus Rex conveniently stumble upon the meeting and catch Thing 1 and Thing 2.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
A badly choreographed fight ensues, and then slow down. Why is this happening again? I really don't get the logic of this. Why does it matter who catches him first? Alicent is still the queen, Otto is still the hand. They're clearly organising things for Aegon. Why do they need to find him first to have influence over him? Otto wants me to order the assassination of Rhaenyra, but my mum's bodyguard found me this morning instead of the bodyguard my grandfather sent, so I guess I'll negotiate instead. What? The peace terms Alicent proposed? Yeah, I never like that. Otto versus Alicent, fine. Set up a dynamic for season 2, fine. But being I'm gonna catch him first and then I win, and if you catch him first, you win, so I have to catch him first because I want to win. It's why'd you? It doesn't matter who catches him first. He's still going to interact with both of you. You don't now control the king because you had him. What? Those of this episode aren't even the same as the ones Otto presents in episode 10. She wants Rhaenyra's family to go into exile peacefully, but the next episode Otto talks about keeping her as Lady of Dragonstone and so on. Anyway, Aemond and Criston caught him first. Hooray, I guess.
I have no wish to rule, no taste for duty. I'm not suited. I don't want it.
The fight. Now that was a cheap blow. The I don't want it joke
Even that was old even then. Even when I dragged it out of the grave, that was an old meme.
Pit reveal links with Mushroom's account from Fire and Blood, which I'm surprised they went with. Don't worry, I've got a section about Aegon coming up later in this video. What's more surprising is the omission of Kristen Cole, well, doing anything useful. All season, let's be honest. He starts out as this mysterious character, a potential love interest, but then he shows his dark side. He joins the Greens, desperate to serve who he perceives to be a virtuous noble lady, unlike that harlot Rhaenyra. But after joining the Greens, he becomes irrelevant. Genuinely, what does he contribute to anything? He's not even the Lord Commander.
I love how I had to like throw in a little disclaimer. I love Fabian Frankel, by the way. He's such a sweetheart in interviews. He's wonderful, and I really like him as a character. It's kind of, he just seems like a mega fan who's like can't believe that he's in the show, so I just like him.
Start of this episode, so it's not like his presence legitimizes the coup. In Fire and Blood, he rolls a nat 20 in Persuasion and gets the reluctant Aegon to betray his sister. For this reason, and because he personally crowns Aegon, he becomes known as the Kingmaker. Yeah, in the show he crowns Aegon, but that's not the point of his moniker. Hell, Hot D actually set this up better than the book because he's presented as a potential father figure to the Targaryen princes, training and siding with them while Vizzy basically ignores them. Are they seriously going to call him the Kingmaker, the Lord Commander who betrayed the rightful queen? The Kingsguard who broke his neutrality for personal and political reasons, just because he put a crown on Aegon's head? Honestly, I think this can be
See, yeah, I was about to make this point, but I think I make it in the video, so I'll let it play. Hold on.
In season 2. Just have Aegon experience a crisis of faith, perhaps he's close to abdicating to stop the war, and then Kristen persuades him otherwise. You know, give the Seaman something to do, at least.
They won't do this, but that would be cool in my opinion, if like there's a bit where he's like, I can't do this, I made a mistake, I'm gonna advocate, I'm gonna flee, and Kristen sits him down and he's like, no, you are the king, you can do this, blah blah, and has his Kingmaker moment, because he hasn't had a Kingmaker moment. He just crowned him, that doesn't count. And he wasn't even Lord Commander when it went down, so it's not like, excuse me, he's not like, oh, it's Kristen Kingmaker because he was Lord Commander during the coup and therefore he took part in the coup, he took part in partisan politics, factionalism. No, he was just a member of the Kingsguard and he became Lord Commander after Harold left, which was basically during the coup. So like, you know, you took away the two most important parts of who he is during the Green Council, right? Of the Kingmaker. He's the Kingmaker. He persuades Aegon. He breaks the neutrality of the Kingsguard and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, he's just kind of a thug. You know, he's just kind of a thug and a simp. And it's just not as interesting as it is in the books, but I'm sure they can rectify it. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. How can they save Kristen Cole's character?
Anyway, Aegon gets coronated and it looks cool and the episode ends. Imp's delight out of 15 marks. Thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, fine, I'll talk about Rhaenys.
The Great Girl Boss Massacre.
Blood, the Greens plot for several days before Aegon is even crowned, sending letters to their allies while Viserys' stench fills the Red Keep. At last, the time comes. Horsemen ride through King's Landing, bellowing the death of Viserys and the ascension of Aegon. Some weep, some cheer, but most are just confused. Some even call out for Queen Rhaenyra. Prince Aegon is taken to the Dragon Pit and crowned King Aegon.
I think this is a background I drew specifically for this episode, and I've been able to bring it back a few times. You can tell it's very much in the my old style of backgrounds, aka very simplistic, no shading. It does its job, but it's the lines are going over and it's not perfect. But I think I've reused this one a few times.
The second, with Aegon the Conqueror's steel circlet placed upon him by Lord Commander Kristen Cole. Alicent places her own crown on her daughter, Queen Helena. Eustace says the dragon pit was teeming, while Mushroom claims it was half empty. After the coronation, Aegon mounts his beautiful gold dragon, Sunfire, and rides back to the Red Keep. In Hot D, the coronation seemed...
Yeah, people in the chat are talking about Lucamore the Lusty. So for those who don't know, member of Jaehaerys' Kingsguard, turns out he had 3 wives, bunch of bastard children, broke Kingsguard vows, and so he was castrated and sent to the wall, I believe. And it was sort of disgraceful, right? And so, yeah, if we'd known about that, if we'd been given some information, that could have fed into his angst, as people are saying in the chat. If he's like, oh no, I've broken my vow, I'm like Sir Lucamore who disgraced himself, who was punished, I could be punished that way, I will soil my name, I've come from nothing, I've worked this hard and I've thrown it all away, blah blah blah. But I think the show did a good job with him when he confesses to Alicent and he's like, I ask that in your clemency you can put me to put me swiftly to death and not torture me. And it's like, okay, you sort of see where his mindset is at, you know. Really takes place the day of the coup. It's swift and efficient, although I do miss the dark concept of Westeros rotting away, surrounded by incense, while politicians and bureaucrats scheme in the shadows. It feels like a wasted opportunity, but then again, they only have 10 episodes, things have to be sacrificed. The coronation itself is awesome. Honestly, I think it's the best part of the episode. It looks amazing, and I love the choreography of it. Aegon's looking You fly for a Valyrian guy, if you ask me. Yeah, he's wearing black, but, you know, he's in mourning. I'll allow it. I think it might actually be dark green, now that I think about it. But, you know, he's in... Anyway, yeah, I said this here, I was like, he's in black, and are we doing the whole bad guys are wearing black, even though there's literally a team they're opposed to called Team Black, you know? But then we see in the Hot D Season 2 trailer, he's got, like, a green outfit with, like, gold dragons on it, and it's like, okay, that's more of what I want. Bring out the green. Morning, I'll allow it. I would have liked a bit more green in this episode. Really sending mixed messages with these outfits, guys. Hell, Otto. Yeah, look at the... I'll allow it. I would have liked a bit more green in this episode. Really sending... But yeah, mixed messages. Like, Iron Rod wears black. With these outfits, guys. He's wearing black. Again, it could be that they're all wearing dark green, and like I said, the colour correction and saturation is just like fucking with it and making it look black, but... Is it too hard to just give people green outfits? Hell, Otto only really cares about one kind of green this episode. Smoke weed every day. Aegon is... Now that belongs in 2014, that meme. I don't know where... I dragged that one out the grave, didn't I? Affected by the audience's declaration of love he never received from his father or even his mother. This shines a more sympathetic light on... Actually no, I don't care, because he watches children literally fight to the death. What I don't like, however, is the unanimous reaction of the crowd. The dragon pit is stuffed and pretty much everyone is cheering. Yeah, I think, like I said, the better ending would have been do I know that actor? No. Cheering and do I? The crowd. The dragon pit is stuffed and pretty much everyone... That looks like Much from the BBC Robin Hood show. Dun, 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 dun. I assume not, because why would he be an extra and go... Anyway. Actually, no, I haven't seen him in anything else. Maybe he's looking for work. Anyway, what was I trying to say? Yes. Like I said, the coronation would have been a great ending, and we'll get into that later in this video, but that would have been a fine ending. That would have been a more than dramatic climax. And wouldn't it have been cool if half of them were like, Rhaenyra, and there's confusion. Some people are like, Aegon King, and they're like, Rhaenyra, where's Rhaenyra? And it's just like this messy, tense auditorium full of people shouting disparate things, and Aegon just looks around, and all the Greens could look around like, oh fuck. And it's like representative of what the realm is like at large in terms of split loyalties, and it could be like a kind of, oh, maybe we fucked up. Civil war is coming. Dun 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 dun. Credits roll, you know. It's cheering and applauding. It's like they've all just forgotten about Rhaenyra. The whole point of this conflict is that the realm is divided. In the book, you've got some of the small folk cheering for Aegon, others calling out for Rhaenyra. It's clearly a reference to the civil war between King Stephen and Empress Matilda. Is this just an unfortunate omission from the script, or is it a deliberate change to show that the small folk are all evil, sexist pigs who don't want a woman on the throne? If it's the latter, then, well, that's an unnecessary removal of nuance from an otherwise pretty nuanced show. It is a shame that Sunfire isn't there. I would have loved to see him in all his golden glory. But that's a nitpick. They didn't have the budget for another dragon at the end of this episode.
What the fuck what do you mean? How? How have you... Ah, man. What? You're just ruining it. Look at my lips. You're ruining it. Ruining.
That genuinely might be... I take it back. That might be my favourite part from this video. I had so much fun adding that one in. That's a classic one. This ending seemed to give people bad flashbacks to some of the dodgiest scenes from Game of Thrones. The ones that prioritised mindless, big-budget spectacle and action over logic and internal consistency. Like Cersei committing Great Theft 9/11 and facing literally zero consequences. Rhaenys bursts up through the floor, slaughtering hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent small folk. Faces off against the High Tires. The High Tires? Faces off against the High Tires. There are certain words that I tend to, like, fuck up when I pronounce them. And the amount of times I'm talking about the High Towers and I'm, like, doing a script and I talk about the High Towers, and it's like the high tires folk faces off against the high tires. The high tires? The high tires. House High Tire. House. Shout out to House Auto High Tire. Faces off against the high towers, decides to spare them, and then flies away. Many fans have complained that this ruined Rhaenys' character. She's now a mass murderer, and even worse, it's not even addressed in episode 10. And despite this, she spares the high towers, making the dramatic entrance completely pointless and ultimately allowing the war to break out. Many consider this to be the worst moment of Season 1. I disagree. I think the Green Council is worse as a book reader, but I do get why people are frustrated. There's a podcast called The Longest Night. The host Rob guides his friend Lizzie through every episode of Game of Thrones, which she hasn't seen before. Shout out to The Longest Night podcast, by the way. I enjoy that. I have a lot of issues with it, but it is quite fun. It's Rob, and he's watched Game of Thrones, and the shtick is he's like a huge fan of it. He loves every season. He loves Season 8. He thinks it ended great. He hasn't read the books. And I think he said, like, the show, he found the show at a really dark time of his life, and it, like, saved him, and he owes a lot to it and so on. And he hated the ultra-negative feedback that Season 8 had. And so it's him showing his friend, Lizzie, through every episode, and they discuss it and they talk about it. And he makes a point, which is like, instead of complaining about something you don't like, try to work out why it was done. You can still dislike it, but there's no point in being like, they have ruined the show, they did it for spectacle and all that. It's like, try and sit back and actually be like, okay, what was the creative decision behind it, and why didn't it work, or why did it work, and so on. Now, again, that podcast does have some issues, such as the presenter Rob basically becoming more kind of like bitter and angry as the seasons go on, like later seasons, where he starts like angrily like straw manning people who don't like the show, doing the whole like putting on a dumb voice to represent other opinions, like, oh yeah, some people watch this show and say, why did Barristan die, and they're all dumb, and it's like, okay, sure. And he can't seem to let it go. He continued the podcast talking about House of the Dragon, and like almost every episode of that podcast he still continues to like bring up Game of Thrones and how people hated the ending and how they're sad, and how like the show fans, and like no one else is on that podcast is talking about Game of Thrones ending. They're talking about how great House of the Dragon is. And there's one episode when he's like, I don't even care that people hate season 8. I don't care anymore. In a way, I've won. And he says it really awkwardly, and I was listening to it, and I was like, what have you won? No one is talking about the ending of Game of Thrones now. We're talking about House of the Dragon. Like, he's got this weird, like, definite kind of like bitter obsession with the fact that people hated the show he loved, and that does tinge those podcasts, unfortunately. But having said that, I'm going to continue the video and we'll play the thing he said that I really enjoyed. Unlike most people who talk about Game of Thrones online, he loves the later seasons as much as the first, and he thought that the show ended well. From season 5 onwards, I basically stop agreeing with half of what he says, and he's a little bit insulting towards book fans who dislike the show, but he produces great content in my opinion. There's one thing he said that really stuck with me. It's that fans need to stop saying, how dare the writers do this, and start asking, why did the writers do this? Doesn't mean we have to like it, but we do need to explore the creative reasons behind the decisions we dislike. So, with that in mind, inside the episode, Miguel Sapochnik said that the episode needed more.
We got to do better than this. We needed a penultimate scene. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen at the coronation, and realise that it was a dragon?
So Sarah Hess, who wrote the script, must have ended the... I do have to say, it's baffling to think about the amount of money and time and resources that went into this final 5 minutes that collectively people just hate. Like, all of that money and time could have gone into something simple as just having Sunfire standing behind Aegon. Like, it's actually baffling. The episode on the coronation, but Big Mig didn't think it was epic enough, so it was rewritten. The addition of this ending may have trimmed other scenes, resulting in the awkward pacing. Perhaps it's the reason why the Green Council is cut so short. Sarah Hess describes the moment as awesome. Yeah, that's another thing I think. If that last scene isn't in there, then that's like another 5 minutes of the episode, which could have been 5 minutes of Green Council, and that could have been 5 minutes of fire dialogue, and maybe it was cut out or forced out the script or something. So we can't just be like, she wrote it, therefore it's all her fault. It's like, okay, who else was involved in terms of producers, directors, editors, HBO higher-ups, etc. And Condell describes it as heroic and triumphal. Is that even a word? Oh shit, it is.
Okay, well now I look stupid. So clearly the three of them considered this scene to be an empowering, epic moment that we're all supposed to cheer for. Mass murder is badass.
Careful now, girl. I enjoy you, but be careful.
The Inside the Episode claims that the script said that Rhaenys bursts out of the floor, and so then the VFX team had to work out the logistics of that. So it's less Rhaenys destroys a bunch of innocents and more awesome girl boss moment. Oh, I guess some people need to die logically. VFX can sort that out.
Yeah, it seems like the script was Caraxes bursts through the floor, and like it didn't really take into account who was there, and then as they filmed it they were like, but there would be people there, and then, oh, let's record and have this. So I don't think it was like she murders a bunch of people in the script. I think it's more she bursts out, and they may not have considered the logical endpoint of her killing a bunch of fucking innocent people for no reason.
Dismissively said that they were civilians, so it doesn't count, which is pretty silly considering the lives of innocents is kind of a big deal in the stories within this universe. It's kind of the point. It's ironic they spend so much time and resources on creating this big scene because the coronation wasn't enough, only for fans to then hate it and wish the episode had ended on the coronation. However, we must give the showrunners the benefit of the doubt. These controversial comments are all out of context statements in interviews and inside the episode marathons. You can't assume that they're as dismissive or unaware as they're presenting themselves.
Yeah, another thing is, as much as we like to take the mick out of inside the episodes and out of context quotes don't tell you anything. Not really. Like, if they have they're interviewed for 6 hours and they're talking about every single episode, and like 5 minutes of all of that is taken for these behind the scenes stuff, it's like they might say something that's taken out of context, or something they didn't mean to say, or something they've misremembered or whatever. Like, I'm sympathetic to that.
There's a chance that the massacre is intentional. Yes, it does make Rhaenys look powerful, but it's also a symbol of how little the nobles care for the small folk, and it may be foreshadowing a certain event in the future that I won't spoil. Perhaps they plan to address this in Season 2. Okay, enough of the diplomacy. You want to know my opinion, don't you? I think it was kinda dumb. I suspect it was an unnecessary attempt to have an epic girl power moment and a shocking big budget ending crafted for Burlington Bar type reactions that then backfired in their faces.
At least your balls won't freeze off.
The coronation.
Alright, I like that one.
Faces.
At least your balls won't freeze off.
I gotta lie, it is kind of ballsy that the first line of Season 8, after so many people complain about the dip in writing quality and how Tyrion's just turned into like a lame joke machine who's obsessed with talking about cock and balls and mocking Varys for no reason. And the first line of Season 8 is, at least your balls won't freeze off. It's like, damn, okay. Either you literally don't listen to any feedback unless it's like the New York Times or the Emmys, or you do listen to feedback and you're actively putting a middle finger up to book readers and being like, shut the fuck up, we'll do what we want.
Coronation would have been a great ending. I like Rhaenys' character, but I can't view her the same way now. It's not even that I see her as a mass murderer, which itself doesn't suit her at all and flies in the face of all of the she would have been a better monarch than Viserys bullshit. No, it's that when I see her, I can't imagine this scene even being canon. It doesn't feel real. Daemon is likeable because he's consistent. We know he's a villainous scumbag. Rhaenys is not. She's not presented that way. The creators don't talk about her that way, and they don't seem to be aware of what they've done with her by making her massacre all those people. It just didn't need to happen. I was already not vibing with the episode, and then the coronation happened, and I thought, weakest episode so far, but this is a good ending. And then the Rhaenys thing kind of ruined it. It's one thing to dislike a creative decision, but it's another thing when the creators don't seem to realise the decision that they've made. I'm fine with her sparing the Hightowers, by the way. She says in episode 10 that it's not her war to begin, which is kind of strange because her granddaughters are married to Rhaenyra's heirs, but killing the Hightowers would still be kinslaying. I get why she doesn't want to kill her own family.
Yeah, like Ryan Condor was like, oh, this is going to be a controversial ending because she doesn't kill the Hightowers. It's like, I don't care that she doesn't kill her own family. What I care about is that she kills a bunch of innocent people, and the writers are basically like, oh, civilians don't count, it doesn't matter. It's, oh, this is a really merciful moment from her. And they're like, are you aware of the scene you just made? Do you know what you've just done? Like, what?
But if I'm wrong, and this was intentional and is going to be addressed, I'm going to say it's wrong, and I'm going to sing its praises, if it's done well. Time to wind down with a sponsorship. I am proud to tell you about...
Yes, the sponsorship is here. DZ Season 1, get hype.
DZ Season 1, the new fashion line by Daemon Targaryen. Big D pioneered this look after realising that most of his peasant fans couldn't afford luxury clothes. The Season 1 range includes the Crime Cloak, the Heinous Hoodie, and the Dastardly Disguise. You can buy these in grey and beige, but for a limited time only, if you click the link below, you can get half price off their latest product, the Dumb Hat. Or you could support the channel by liking and subscribing so I can get actual sponsors. Nah, that's not as fun, is it? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, we go. We had Vizzy T Leprosy Legends, now we have DZ Season 1. Get some crime cloaks.
You might
click the link, everyone.
Have noticed that I've avoided talking about Alicent in depth. I still have mixed opinions about her role this season. I enjoyed that she's not just Rhaenyra's evil stepmother, but I feel like they went too far in making her sympathetic.
So yeah, this kind of... I talked a lot about this when we had the other video and in other streams, but when we had best episode of Hot D up, so I won't interrupt it too much, but I think I do a pretty... From what I remember, I summarise my issues with Alicent's character quite well in this chapter, so let me know if you agree or disagree about Alicent.
To the point where she spends much of the entire season as a passive observer, with a few moments that feel like she's coming into her own to take control, but then she just doesn't. Episode 5 she emerges in the green dress, but 10 years later we learn that she hasn't made any allies at court except this weirdo. And then at the end of episode 7 she snaps and Otto praises her, and in episode 8 she's helping her father run the court, but it turns out she doesn't even know about the coup. I get it, she's meant to be somewhat passive because she's a lost and lonely woman in a medieval patriarchy, but she can still have agency in not having agency, in following the traditions and customs of Westeros that result in her playing a more passive role in society by being more involved in the coup and court politics as a whole. Does that make sense? Nah, we can't have Alicent building up a court faction and launching the coup for her own complex personal and political reasons. No, she has to be a poor, innocent, passive, naive observer while evil, dumb men force her to be ruthless. I don't know, it feels a little bit infantilizing. I'm not saying she has to be...
Yeah, that's... Yeah. I won't go... I've talked about this. But... Yeah, it does... I think infantilizing is a good word. It does feel infantilizing when writers portray certain groups of people in media a certain way, and they do so because they think they're making some kind of like political point, and it's just infantilizing. Like, I won't go into it too much, but Russell T Davies saying that he doesn't want Davros from Doctor Who is traditionally this character who's like half Dalek, right? He's got like he's lost the use of one of his arm, his bottom half is a Dalek base, he's blind and so on, he's like deformed from radiation, and the showrunner for Doctor Who has come back, said he doesn't want Davros to be in a wheelchair anymore, because the implication is that all wheelchair users are evil, and you don't want to associate evil with disability, and just it's that weird kind of thinking they're doing it because they think that they're like, I don't know, progressive or being a saviour to minority groups that they don't belong to, but all they're doing is being infantilizing. They're treating these groups like children and idiots, and it's just it always pisses me off. And it's like, yeah, you could argue this is a very good show, so maybe infantilizing is too strong a term for how they treat Alicent, but I just don't get the whole kind of, you know, things would be a lot better if she weren't being dragged around by all the men around her in her life. And it's like, why is she not capable of playing her own games, having her own political ambitions, you know? I don't know. Well, we've talked about this, there's not much else to say, there's not much more to say.
Fire and blood ruthless. In fact, they've swapped Alicent and Otto around a bit. In the book, it's Otto calling for peace and negotiations. She finally gets her taking control moment again by capturing Aegon first, standing up to Otto, organising the coronation.
That's a good point up there. Why does Otto look dishevelled in every scene? He looks like he's just got out of bed in every single scene.
But we've already had this moment before. I hope she starts getting
down to business.
Hey, Glidus reference. Thank you very much. That's a he had the Be a Man. He had his own cover of Be a Man, I think, in his Aya Got review, and then he released that as a cover on his other channel, and I thought I'd sneak in another little Glidus reference.
Season. She doesn't have to be a villain. I think she's way more interesting in Hot D, but I just want her to be more involved, to do more, to have more agency. Wait a minute. Did someone say
villain.
Do you love me?
Are you playing your love game with me? I just wanna know.
I got like one person in the comments who was like, "Hey, Mighty Boosh." There's one person got the reference in the comments. Really don't like what they've done with Aegon. In Fire and Blood, he starts off as a lazy, spoiled brat. His first... Someone said, Doctor Who's getting rid of Davros? Come on, you brought back the toy maker, bring back Davros. No, I think Davros will still be in the show when brought back, but he will no longer be quote-unquote disabled. I never saw him as disabled. I saw him as his lower half is a Dalek, because he's like old, but you know, he will come back with as an able-bodied person, because of course you can't have a villain who's disabled, because what are you saying, all disabled people are villains, you bigot? Yeah, that's a dangerous, like, slippery slope. That's a dangerous road to go down when you're like, whoa, you can't have X group, a member of X group play a villain, because are you implying they're all villains? Like, you know, that has a natural, like, that has a logical endpoint, which is very dark. You know what I mean? I won't get into it, but... yeah, Flippy says, a character being villainous or morally questionable does not equal bad representation in and of itself. No, if a character is well written, and you have characters of a certain group that are, like, widely represented in various different ways, it doesn't matter if you have a character who is, you know, villainous, nasty, whatever, who belongs to whatever arbitrary group you want to assign them to. It's a very baffling quote from Russ T Davies, because he's quite a smart man, so it's like, what are you talking about? Callum says, in fact, the term infantilizing is right. A lot of media treats what are considered traditionally oppressed groups as being defined by their oppression, and being blunt, it makes for terrible stories. Disempowering them to show their oppression and therefore making them a non-entity in a story is not all that different from just not including them as anything other than a prop. I think it's incredibly well put there, Callum. I think you did a great job there. Yeah. Yeah. I think minority groups would like to be represented in way more interesting ways, interesting, positive, well-written ways than just being written by someone who is not of their group, presenting them as poor innocent children that are being oppressed by everyone. Because it's never people who belong to these minority groups who write in such a way. It's always like, you know, the white liberal saviour. Not to get too political, but it's always like a white liberal saviour who's like, no, I will represent you perfectly and I'll write you a certain way, and it's always just like so infantilizing. People are far too careful not to offend, and past bad representation is now being overcorrected in the opposite direction, says Morgan. To an extent, I agree with that. You know, looking back in the past of media and being like, oh no, certain groups were presented terribly, so we need to change that. But then you have bad writers / writers with a grudge, or writers with maybe a bad personal experience coming in, and instead of writing better characters of a certain, instead of writing people of a certain group as better characters, they're tearing down members of another group, as in this weird seesaw effect. So the classic stereotype for that would be women in the past have been written terribly, right? Whether it's useless bimbos or, you know, sex bots or damsels in distress. So therefore we need to write them, create more interesting, compelling, enthralling characters that are female. But instead it's like, well, modern writers don't know how to write strong female characters, so what they do is they write female characters that are constantly being shitty to men, and all the men are written as being incompetent or idiotic or nasty, and it's, we're making men shittier, therefore women are better in media. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You don't push one group down to make another group look better. That's lazy. What you do is you write better female characters and better male characters, right? And so if what makes a strong female character. It is not a female who is strong, it is a strongly written female character who might also happen to be strong, depending on who that is. But people seem to think strong female character means a physically strong bitch who hates men. I don't know why that's a common trope. Maybe it's just incompetent writers. Could easily be people with grudges, people with bad personal experiences. I don't know. But yeah, like look at Star Wars, for example. Like in modern Disney Star Wars, there are two kind of female characters. There's Rey, who is treated as a strong female character because she flips around and she fights with a lightsaber, and she is talented. And then you have an actual strong female character who would be like Mon Mothma from Andor, or Deidre from Andor, where they are strongly written and they have great dialogue and they have interesting motivations and they have really cool strengths but also humanizing flaws. That's a strong female character. Like Rey Palpatine versus Mon Mothma from Andor. Those are like the perfect portrayal of how not to write a female character and how to write a female character. Or no, not female character. Let me take that back. A character. How to write a character and how not to write a character. Yeah. We could. This could be a whole other discussion. It could be a whole other discussion about representation of different groups in media and how some people, bad writers, just making things worse for every group by shitting on some groups and artificially inflating others when all people want is well-written, balanced humans to be written, you know. Yeah. First redeeming action is when he initially refuses to take the throne because he doesn't want to betray his sister. It's the threat of literal death that sways him. Young Hot D Aegon is similar. I actually really like his characterization in episode 6 and 7. He's a bored pervert and a bully, but he has a likeable honesty. He's just a bored dude. I was expecting the show to keep this general characterization but take it down a somewhat darker path. I just wasn't expecting the path to become pitch black. I mean, he outright assaults a presumably... Wait, what did that say? Expecting the path to become pitch black. I mean, he outright assaults a presumably underage maid. I get that it isn't presented as a sadistic thing. It comes across more like a spoiled idiot who doesn't understand consent. But even so... I've also talked about Aegon so much. I've talked about my issues with him, so I'll just let this play. Way more grim. And again, do you guys... It looks like lots of people agreed with me on Alicent. Do you agree with me on Aegon? Do you think he was made too nasty, too villainous early on, and in doing so any kind of arc is now destroyed, where instead of him becoming darker throughout the Civil War, they've already made him too dark and they've therefore made his faction the bad guys and removed all kind of nuance from the battle. You know, an anti-war story has just become the good guys versus the bad guys. I think teenage Aegon was a great character. Adult Aegon, they went too far in a couple of places, as George Lucas would say, speaking of Star Wars, and I don't know. And the groping that's mentioned in Fire and Blood, and even that's pretty grim. Now, this isn't the issue I have. I don't mind a darker Aegon, but the child fighting pits for me is too much. It's comically villainous. You're telling me he watches children with filed teeth fight to the death for fun. Not only that, one of his bastard sons takes part. Of all of Mushroom's stories to go with, they went with the child fighting pits? Okay, the nuance is gone now. He's just an outright evil sadist. The blacks versus greens thing is... solve. It's Rhaenyra, who's a flawed person, versus this... Yeah, basically what I've just said. Bye. It's over. It's over. Hey, there it is. There's the original usage. The greens thing is solved. It's Rhaenyra, who's a flawed person, versus this guy. This It's Over stick is a sticker on my Patreon Discord. Now you know the origin, my patrons who are watching this. It's over. It's over. In Fire and Blood, it's clear that Germ has a preference for the blacks, and I expected the greens to be more sympathetic in the show, to make things more interesting, but no, they're somehow more villainous, with the specific exception of Alicent, of course. This is similar to the Rhaenys thing. If they're going to make a decision I dislike, I want to know the reasoning. But if they don't seem to realise what they've done, then I'm concerned. Yeah, it's the same. It's Rhaenys, they don't realise that they've made what she's done is horrific, because they're acting like it's an awesome moment. And then with Aegon, Ryan Condor's like, hey, yeah, we don't want to make him like Joffrey. We don't want to just make him a second Joffrey. We want him to be nuanced and sympathetic. It's like, If you don't want him to be a second Joffrey, why do you have him frequent child fighting pits, and then in which his son takes part in, his bastard son takes part in? Why would you add that? Did you know, unless I'm mistaken, the only mushroom interpretation within the entirety of season 1 is the fighting pits? That's the only mushroom thing they added in. It's just baffling to me. Because people have come out and said, he's not a sadist, he's not Joffrey, we don't want to make the same kind of character, he's misunderstood and sympathetic. No, he stopped being sympathetic the moment we found out he watches his own bastard son fight to the death with filed teeth. Why did they go so extreme? It makes the conflict way more boring. It's basically just heroic Rhaenyra versus evil brother at this point. No, you don't understand, he watches child torture because he was neglected as a kid and his father didn't love him, and I hope he gets better characterization next season. Just retcon the pit stuff. Retcon everything I don't like. Fantasy Haven, YouTuber extraordinaire, honestly.
No taste for duty, I'm not suited.
Wow. I'm not suited cuts to Tom Glencarney in a dashing suit. That might be the worst one. That might be the worst joke in this whole video. I think that one was a bit too far. Okay, what's the chat saying? Before we go on to the final chapter, which is, this is things I liked, ending off with a positive note. I guess some people are talking about that discussion I had earlier. Flippy says, I've never heard people complain about the likes of Magneto being bad representation because he's a good character. He's one of the most beloved Marvel villains of all time and people still sympathise with him. Yeah, Magneto being a Jewish man. No one says, oh, are you saying Jewish people are evil? Oh, that's a shame. We can't... Wait, you've got this really nasty villainous guy, but he's Jewish? Or what are you trying to imply there? No, he's just a great character. That just made me wonder, when they inevitably bring back Magneto, how are they going to change his backstory? Because he can't be a concentration camp survivor anymore, because he would be like... he'd be over 100, right? He'd be ancient. Like, Old Man Magneto. I mean, Ian McKellen was Old Man Magneto, but they'd probably have to change him up a bit. Morgan says there's an archetype of the strong female character who is just a man in the body of a sexy woman. That's like the shitty action movie female protagonist who's called a strong female character. It's like you could literally replace them with a male character in terms of dialogue. Sorry, not in terms of in terms of everything they do in that movie. Like, there's nothing. Yeah, I mean, again, if you, it's about don't write robots, unless you're writing robots. You know, write human beings. And if you want to, it's about having variety too. So if you're going to write about a female character and you're like, I want her to have masculine traits, go ahead. And if you want to do a female character with feminine traits, go ahead. A male character with masculine traits or feminine traits, whatever. Just have variety, because humans are diverse. There's a whole bunch of different people, you know. Just write good characters. Yeah, should have been a Bobby B who gets corrupted over the course of the war in reference to Aegon. Too nasty and too villainous. He needs nuance or character growth. Yeah, I think, like I said, teen Aegon is perfect. Adult Aegon is too far. Like, when you literally have people being like, oh, this is the new Joffrey, when their express intent was not to make a new Joffrey behind the scenes. Like, you've just fucked up. You've massively fucked up. They're making it overly obvious who the good versus bad guys are. Yes, don't know why. Wasn't Aegon described as nasty and depressing in the books? In the books, he's like a lazy, spoiled brat, like playboy brat. Also quite handsy, right? So it is heavily suggested that he did like grope maids and so on. So he's a piece of shit. But in the show, it's like there's a difference between having like a spoiled, abusive brat who is then thrust into power and he doesn't want it. I don't want it. and then he's corrupted by the war and he becomes darker and, you know, less of a clown and more of a villain. Whereas in the show, it's like he watches children fight to the death for some reason, question mark. So it's like too much. It's too far for me. Another thing is the whole R-word thing with Diana. Again, I can't say it or I'll be demonetized. But that... I think I mentioned this in the comments of this video, but like the R-word crosses in fiction. It crosses a moral event horizon that murder doesn't. So viewers will see Aegon as more villainous than Daemon, even though Daemon murdered his own wife with a rock, and Aegon hasn't killed anyone yet. But that's because Aegon did what he did to Diana, and I think it's because it hits closer to home for lots of people who may know someone who's experienced something like that or haven't or has experienced it themselves, whereas most people are like, I don't know someone who was bashed in by a rock by their evil husband, you know, sword fights and murder and poisoning or whatever. All that stuff is kind of disconnected for most people, but something like the R-word is like hits closer to home, and so characters who do that are like irredeemable, right? In fiction, there are lots of stories where a murderer is redeemed or an attempted murderer is redeemed. Look at Jaime's story. He pushes a kid out of a window and yet we like him, but the moment you have that scene in season 4 where it's directed and shot as if he is forcing himself onto Cersei, suddenly people are saying his redemption arc is ruined. And it's like, okay, is that any better or worse than pushing a child out a window? Dunno. But for the average audience, that crosses something. So you are kneecapping that character from the get-go by introducing older Aegon as, oh, he forced himself on an underage maid. It's like, you cannot take that back.
This is a part where I stopped being a moany little bitch. What did I enjoy about the episode? The opening scene is masterful and atmospheric. The direction and cinematography is mostly great, with the exception of this fight scene. It goes without saying, the acting remains fantastic all across the board. I know I dunked on Aemond earlier, but I love the emotion on his face when he comes to see Helena. I like the attempt to show the court purge, even if the execution wasn't brilliant. Man.
Hey, literally I was about to pause it and say nice pun, but it turns out I acknowledged it was a pun.
And it's gotta be hard purging the blacks and promoting the greens when everyone's wearing the same fucking colour.
Another one of these show trials. The High Towers really do like their staged events.
It's a nice touch to have blacks who stand their ground, blacks who bend the knee out of fear, and even Lord Caswell who plays along to act later. Unfortunately, they decided to make him an idiot. Where are you riding to? I hate Rhaenyra, she sucks. Yeah, but where are you riding to? Damn it, you got me. Like, why did you just stand in silence?
Yeah, the Caswell thing might be... Honestly, the Caswell thing might be the most underrated, dumbest moment of the episode, where he tries to ride away. So he bends the knee, you know, okay, smart. He tries to ride away, he gets caught. And then, like, where are you going? And he, instead of coming up with any excuse, he's just like, I wasn't going anywhere now, I'm just, what? So what'd you say? And they're like, why did you ride away? And then he just goes quiet, and it's like, you literally have you can't think of anything to say. And then they drag him away, and he like resists dramatically, and it's like, you couldn't have been like, I'm riding to my family because, you know, there are people at my seat who are actually pro Rhaenyra, I need to change their mind or some shit. I don't know. Anything. Cole Karsnark says, child fighting is very real IRL. Yeah, no, I'm not saying there shouldn't be child fighting pits in King's Landing. You know, it does tie into Mysarea's whole power to the people, close the fighting pits in exchange for information kind of thing. What I mean is having Aegon be part of that is a bit too much. I'm okay with that existing. Don't quote me out of context. I'm okay with that existing within King's Landing. It's just how it connects to Aegon that I have a problem with.
Did he not think of a single excuse? Wait, I'm supposed to be talking about positive stuff. Most of Alicent's scenes are actually great. I mean, it's Olivia Cook, of course it's great. The way she was laying on the charm for Rhaenys, nice try, bitch. I love seeing her stand up to Otto. It was really satisfying, and I'm genuinely excited to see how their relationship evolves next season. I also really like the scene with Larys. In episode 6, after the 10-year time skip, she visits Larys and takes her shoes off to show how comfortable she is in his presence. It's been 6 years, and she's comfortable enough to take her stockings off and get snug on the sofa, displaying how their friendship has grown into a healthy... Wait, no, Larys.
I need to have a look at those feet.
Oh, no.
I hate this, man. I
need to have a look at those feet. Feet emoji in the chat. No, don't do that. Please don't. We've made it to the foot bit. I haven't. So yeah, I just let that play. I just wanted to let the positives of the episode play, because this is a good episode. You know, it's not a bad episode. It's just disappointing. There's the dude who rocks up to the party and ruins the entire mood, and no one knows who even invited him. I know everyone made a meme about the foot thing, but I'm surprised people interpreted this moment as a reveal of Larys's motivations. Shout out to me having the foot scene in a chapter called What I Liked. As I said in my episode 9 review, if Larys were paid in gold coins, no one would be saying, "Oh, his motivation is gold, that's boring." No, it's clearly a bunch of stuff. The feet thing is his payment, of course, but it's also his way of exerting control over her. Honestly, the actor Matthew Needham said it better than I ever could, so I'm just going to read this out. It's not just about a man. Before we start this, I'll run through a bit of the chat, because this is like the last stretch of the video. So again, going back to that previous discussion, Carl in the chat says, Gwendolyn Christie talked about how most quote-unquote strong women are just male parts portrayed by, female actresses, basically. Yeah, it's just bad writing. People don't know how to write interesting characters. They write the same generic, boring protagonist. And then they might cast a woman to play it and be like, look, a strong character, because they're fighting and they're in charge and they are beating other people. And it's like, yeah, no, it's just bad writing. And it's writing by people who don't know how to write men and women as different. It's people who don't get that. What else are people saying? Cole says Buffy is the best strong women in recent pop culture in his opinion. I haven't watched Buffy. I do want to watch it in the future. Callum says it could work if the whole Aegon thing. It could work if they make his sadism more real. Child fighting pits, that's supervillain shit. Yes, like they could have it so that, I don't know, maybe he's neglected, and maybe as Teen Aegon he like does something bad to an animal. I know that's cliche, and like I don't want him to be a psychopath, but something to show that he's a bit of a weirdo that's like less intense than. Actually, no, if he does anything to an animal that also crosses an event horizon that's worse than murder of a human, I take it back. Yes, and speaking of writing good female characters, George R. R. Martin, he knows how to do it. Not perfectly, in all instances, he has some issues, but for the most part, I think, really well-written female characters. And a nice variety of female characters with different perspectives of the world. Okay. Piggly Wiggly time. No, don't call them grippers. Oh, thank you for the super chat from Kat, who says, unrelated, but thoughts on Dany being an unreliable narrator. Other than she maybe doesn't remember where the house with the red door was. Okay, interesting. So, yeah, when people talk about Dany being an unreliable narrator, they turn to the whole red door, the Lemon Gate theory, ideas that Daenerys may have grown up in a different place, may not even be who she says she is. Maybe she's not even a Targaryen. Maybe she's a, pisswater princess. She's a commoner who's disguised as a Targaryen. And like, can we fully trust her and her early memories and all that stuff? So other than she doesn't remember House with the Red Door, so yeah, what do you mean by that? Like, how else could she be an unreliable narrator? Because to a degree, all the characters are unreliable narrators in the sense of they are pushing their chapters is them pushing their own views on the world and different characters onto the reader, right? It's not super objective. You have the whole Unkiss with Sansa, where she falsely remembers the Hound kissing her. She just has a fake memory of that. So, sort of unreliable narrator in that sense. But with Daenerys, I don't know. Unless you're going down the route of, because she's crazy, the whole mad Targaryen thing, maybe it's unreliable. Maybe the way that she's viewing what she's done in Essos, freeing slaves, crucifying masters, blah blah. It's actually a lot more bloodthirsty and brutal and like villainous than we are being told. And when we get an outside perspective seeing what she's doing, we're going to find out she is actually way more bloodthirsty and crazy than she is. That would be really stupid in my opinion, but I don't know. I guess we'll see, but I guess we won't see, because as of the latest New Year's blog post where George R. R. Martin was talking about how much he liked an animated show, I think we can officially say Winds is not actually going to come out. Like, I'm like, it's done. It's not coming. I'm really optimistic about 2024. I'm excited for A Song of Ice and Fire projects. I'm excited for my channel, but I have genuinely stopped even trying to believe in Winds. I think that's it. We're not getting Winds. If his New Year's update, he couldn't even bother one sentence of, I've been working on it. If he's just like, let me tell you about this animated show I watch, it's like, oh, fuck off. He's allowed to do that, of course, but I think he needs to be honest and he needs to come out and just tell people, sorry, I just can't do it. I just can't finish them. I'm sorry. And work on things he's more interested in, like the TV shows. Give us Dunk and Egg. Give us Fire and Blood. Blue-Eyed Samurai slaps. I do want to watch the show he recommended, by the way. I'm not hating on Blue-Eyed Samurai. I do want to watch that. Okay. Time to continue the Piggly Wiggly discussion. So I think this part of the video is me reading out what Matthew Needham has to say about Laris, that being the actor. And with her clubfoot being attracted to feet, it's that he can make her do it. This is a very disturbed person with a lot of trauma. It's about making her feel as much shame as she does for that part of her body as he does for his. He can cut out tongues and he can cut out eyes. I think he likes that. I think he likes making people incomplete. He can't do that with her. He can, though, associate that part of her body with a trauma so that long after he's gone, she's got this sick feeling about it that's connected to that. That's the thing about assault like that. It makes the victim's body the scene of the crime. And I think that's what he likes to do. So I don't see it like he loves feet. It's the fact that she's not into it, and he can make her do it. I'm super excited to see... Yeah, nothing to add to that. I think that's a great description of Laris. Beyond just haha feet. Gets up to next season. It seems like he tried to take a queen off the chessboard, so perhaps he will merge his Firefly pawns with Myzaria's spy network to become a bishop. Oh god, I suck at chess analogies. Just to clarify, there's lots of good dialogue here. Sarah Hess is a good writer. All of the writers are good. I'm glad she'd be happy to hear that I've officially validated her as a writer. Before she wasn't sure, she was a bit insecure, but now that I've said she's a good writer, she's like, whew, okay, I am a good writer then. Good for the most part. Just like this show. Yes, I think episode 9 is the worst episode, but it's still above average. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or not. But what's the best episode, I hear you ask? Well, look no further than this video, and feel free to... Hey, the famous video. That Hightower video has over 600,000 views, and 90% of those views are because there's an arrow pointing to Natalie Dormer's cleavage. That was a genius thumbnail. I'm a genius. Okay, well, there we go. It's been a year. 19 subs to 22,000 subs in a year. I'm so grateful to every single one of you. This was lots of fun, and yeah, I'm hyped for the future of Fantasy Haven. There's lots to do. I posted my January schedule. Like, some of it is time, some of it is just stuff I want to do this month on Patreon. I'll be doing a YouTube specific version on YouTube, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. Basically saying what videos are coming out this month, what the plan is, because I want to get lots done this month. Last month was like me sorting my life out, me dealing with some stuff, and this year is just going to be precision YouTube stuff. You know, how many times can I say the word stuff? But I've been working super hard. I've been self-employed. I quit my job. I've been struggling month to month. I've barely left the house, barely spent money, and it's finally paying off. And it's all down to you. It's all of you watching this live, not live, subscribers, patrons, people who follow me on Twitter, whatever. It's all down to you, and I'm super thankful and grateful for all of you. And I guess before we leave, I will say, what videos am I going to do this month? So 3 videos planned. A bunch of live streams too, with Quinn the GM and others. But if we're talking about videos, Another CK3 one, Game of Thrones. It's looking at the Wall and the Wildling clans in CK3. Then after that, I'm thinking of doing the animated history of House Royce. That's going to be a fun one. And then after that, I'm going to do the first in my series of House of the Dragon book versus show. Half of it will be animated, talking about the books. The other half will be talking about the show clips, talking about the show. And in the future, we'll be going beyond Song of Ice and Fire. We've got Avatar The Last Airbender, we've got Dune, we've got Witcher. People talking about I should do God Hersha. So many ideas, and I can't wait to get cracking. And for the meantime, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, although if you're watching this you probably are, and check out my Patreon if you're interested in exclusive goodies. So for the lowest tier you get to join the Patreon exclusive Discord and interact with me and do fun stuff and voice chat and chat to me and the community and all that stuff. For higher tiers you get exclusive videos like an extended version of the Hightower video or the exclusive House Dane animated video, behind the scenes video. You got regular live streams. What else have we got? You get art commissions. For the higher tiers, you got name and description, name at the end of the video. I shout your name out. The Lord of Light tier, that's the Big Daddy tier, right? That's where my sugar daddies are. The Lord of Light tier. That's when I do all that stuff, and I commit, and you get an artwork. You get a character of yourself commissioned, and that character cameos in the background of most of my animated videos. So if any of that sounds interesting, check out the Patreon in the description. Just click the link, browse, patreon.com/fantasyhaven, see if there's anything there. Because like I said, this isn't a hobby, this isn't like a side project, this is literally my job. So if you're able to support me in that way, it means that I can keep making content and get better equipment and stuff. But if you're not interested in that stuff, that's fine. You can help me by just watching my videos, interacting, commenting, letting me know what you like, what you don't like, what you want me to do next, liking my videos, sharing them, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for watching this live stream, and I feel like we had some really awesome chats, and I'll speak to you maybe on Thursday on Quinn the GM's channel. Huh? Yeah, I know you're hyped for it. Okay, people are saying Berserk. Yeah, I should get into Berserk. I could do some Berserk lore. That sounds fun. Okay, see ya. Wait a minute. Am I missing a super chat? No, I'm not. I had to double check because last time I ended the stream before I answered a patron super chat, he wasn't happy. Okay, ending the stream now. See ya.